So, Kev, 4 days later, as we said, we'd reconvene. I'm not wearing the same thing.
Wait, 4 days later than
The last recording.
Oh, we recorded 4 days ago. Shit, I forgot about. Have you released that yet?
No, it should be up by now.
Adam,
4 days after.
I've
Yeah,
been
it should be up by
telling
now.
you.
I would think that in like an hour it would be up after we recorded
All right,
it. An hour after.
I anticipated after you said that you were going to say something else. So now we're already.
Oh, have we killed the bit? Have we killed the bit?
What bit?
What bit? I don't know what you're talking about.
4 days later.
Yeah.
The Ides of April.
I did laundry, as you can tell from all the dog fur on this hoodie that I just grabbed. And I'm not wearing my blue polo.
Also, I believe the Ides of April are April 13th. Tax day.
Should I do
tax day?
I gotta do. I was supposed to do my taxes tonight. I guess that's gonna happen.
Done.
It's gonna happen over the weekend.
I
I
really got to do this tomorrow, don't I?
Yeah.
I'm not
First time filing. Do you file married joint? Do you file as married joint filing or? Yeah,
Yes.
that's the first time we're doing it. So
makes sense. First time you've been married / joint since last April.
Yeah. Should I record the whole episode like this?
Call her out. You're talking about taxes, or
taxes specifically. We're recording a whole episode about taxes.
Do you usually do? Do you usually do hoodie over polo?
I do not do. No. That's.
Well,
am I wearing a polo? I'm wearing a polo. Shoot, I didn't realize that. Oh, is this the same one? Shoot.
Well, like I said, you're a pauper. You only have one polo and one hoodie.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna stuff that down because this looks too funny for the rest of it. And no, I could just take the hoodie off. But anyway, obviously 4 days later. Let's talk about the draft, Kev.
You can tell it's 4 days later because my beer's full, and at the end of the last episode, it was almost empty.
Yep, specifically. And Kev was wearing a black shirt, which he's not wearing underneath right now, and he's got a purple hoodie.
It was actually navy, just like this shirt. This is a different shirt.
Is that navy? Oh, I can't tell.
Yeah, it's a very dark navy, yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's start off with Bears needs. Coming off of all the free agency moves, I would argue offensive line is not done. I think everyone's arguing offensive line's not done. We need rotational pieces. Also, probably a left tackle just in case things do not work out well with Brax's injury and Kyron. I'm not going to even try to say his last name. It's been a while. I used to be able to say it.
Oh, damn. I got it now instead of you. Amagaji.
You're
the one that used to be able to do that.
It's the only name that I used to have on you. Shoot, I'm lost it. So needs there. Needs at running back. A lot of fans talking like Ashton Genty, but there's others. And then deep running back class as well, which works out.
I gotta say, what's his name? Lester Wilfong from Wendy City Gridiron put out a thing. Who are your top 5 realistic Bears targets at 10? And not that I love that everybody's in agreement that we all need Ashton Genty or that even Omarion Hampton was in some of their top 5s. But you know what? I do love that the faction of Blue Sky Twitter, Blue Sky Bears Blue Sky, that we have mutual followers with. They all seem to be on the same page that we do need a running back, which I don't think all those guys are on that same page, even watching DeAndre Swift in early December. So I'm overjoyed to see that we're all on the same page there, that if not a 10, we definitely need a running back. We're all on the same page. It's nice.
And I'll argue why maybe a 10 is not a great thing. I do, and we'll talk about that.
As long as we acknowledge off the bat that it would be very trite to give the traditional argument there. We all know that one.
Right, but I want to explain the traditional argument in the sense that Saquon Barkley's contract is literally the same contract you would be handing.
Sure, I'm just saying let's not do Mel Kiper, which all praise to Mel Kiper, he's the godfather, but let's not do the thing where he's like, I don't think you should do that.
No, I would explain it. I would explain it in detail. And to be fair, if we drafted Ashton Genty, I would buy his jersey because I fucking love the player. This would be completely separate.
Can we actually do this really quick?
What?
You could rank them you keep ranking them until you want to stop ranking them. But separating them into the same positional groups that, let's say, PFF separates positional groups. Why don't you just rank your top X needs in order for the Bears, in your opinion?
defensive end, interior defensive line, because we need rotational pieces, and I would rather have Dio Odim. Wow,
Odingba.
Just said it 4 days ago.
4 days ago
Odingbo.
you had it. Now I got it. Yeah.
Dio
I didn't have it
Odimbo.
4 days ago.
I would rather have him as my edge 3 as a rotational piece.
Your brain actually makes it so that it does seem like it was 4 days ago, which it was.
Yeah. The fact that I'm off now.
Right.
An hour.
Like,
not even an hour.
No normal person would immediately forget his name.
To be transferred like 10 minutes after that, and now I can't do it. It was only like an hour ago that I was saying his name. I think that as like an edge 3 or like an edge 2, but a rotational edge 2 where you got 2.5, right?
Yeah,
I'd rather have that.
Let me stop you really quick though. Is that 1 and 2 for you? Edge, and
interior, yes, and DI. Then I would probably go OT, swing OT / starting left tackle, right? Because we need a replacement for Brax eventually, unless he comes back really healthy and looks like a stud, right? And then it's gonna be like interior offensive line. This is where I go like Will Campbell at 10 still sounds good for me if I've got a swing guard who can step in and be damn good if we need him. / we'll replace Joe Tooney eventually. And then 5 this is at 10, right? I'm ranking him at 10. 5 would be tight end, 6 would be
running back. Oh geez, no, because now you're thinking
5 would be cornerback.
To have said
5 would be
end,
cornerback.
You're thinking about specific players.
Yeah, no. 5 would be cornerback. If we're just going positionally, 5 would be cornerback. Tyreek Stevenson, get him some real competition. And I do think we should think about getting a real CB2 in there just in case. I think Tyreek Stevenson can come back and bounce back. Cornerback's volatile. He had a bad season. We'll see. But just in case you don't want that hole. Safety. We need some depth at safety. We have no depth at safety. We didn't have depth last year at safety. Elijah Hicks came in and did pretty decent.
I'll give Hicks flowers.
Yeah, you got to give Hicks his flowers. But going into the season, I didn't think we had depth. Now we have Hicks and a healthy Jaquan Brisker who's been in and out.
Right.
Yep. And then I would go running back at 10. Running back is a higher need. Don't get me wrong. Like, eventually you need to, like, in day 2, we should have that patched in. But at 10, running back would be 7. I'd like a tight end to be able to groom. I've told you this even beforehand. It takes a couple of years for tight ends to get good. So get your tight end in day 3, potentially. We'll talk about something else later. Get a tight end in day 3 that you can start grooming now. A lot of day 3 tight ends end up being Isaiah Likely looks like he's turning in. Why am I blanking here? Best tight end in the league from the 49ers. Help me out here. George Kittle. George Kittle, day 3 guy, absolute stud, right? Like, get a day 3 guy, groom him while we still have Komet.
And okay. I don't mean to police you too much, but I was really asking for the needs.
Yeah, that's it. But those are the things that I want. Wants and needs. That's how I would rank them at 10.
Right. So I think an argument made that every position besides quarterback needs at least one more guy.
Yes.
I don't. In fact, it's basically inarguable. There's no position
either
on this team that
depth,
does not need one more guy.
Either for depth because those positions get hurt.
Yeah.
Competition, or because we need a starter. And some of them are lower, even though they're the ones that I say we need a starter at.
So now I'm going to say really quick, this is draft independent. This is just what all the guys in the world are available to us. What position would they ideally play? For me, would go edge, running back. I'm going to go just because of position value. I'm going to go offensive tackle, then running back.
We're talking about a 10, right? We're talking about a 10.
I'm saying all of the guys in the world are available to us
at 10.
There's a ball of clay available to us that we can just have. What position would you like to mold this guy into so he's really good at playing that position?
So if I could have Saquon Barkley at that position at running back 3, sure, yeah, I can get that.
Sure, yeah, something like that.
You're getting his value of his contract.
4, I've been going back and forth, but I think I'm with DI 4th. And then 5th, I'm going to. Oh man, I want to go off the board. I'm gonna go receiver, but I think safety
Oh.
and linebacker are very underrated needs as well.
Yeah, linebacker depth would be nice. I do like, again, it goes back to what I said 4 days ago. Noah Sewell. We'll see. Obviously, like that is a very I would not put my money on it because of everything that's happened with his career. Just as a prospect for me. I forgot about oh god, why you just said the wide receiver. I forgot about wide receiver. Wide receiver would probably go ahead of it would probably be right behind guard. I think we can do with the wide receivers we have, but I would want another wide receiver, but I still think we need some kind of rotation, like a swing guard.
It would just get really messy with one injury, and we'll get into it. But I wanted to do that so that we knew how to start talking about the positions.
Our questions were different, though. To be clear, yours was anybody, mold and clay. Mine was still based off the draft.
Right. Well, I never said 10. The Bears needs. What are the Bears? Yeah. What do the Chicago Bears need?
I mean,
to become a better football team?
If I had to go off of needs, because now if we're talking second round, I'm starting to put running back up there, right? I'm like, oh no, dude, take a running back now. Take a running back in the side, like second, maybe with the third pick we've got, or take him in the third.
Sure. So, for example, not to relitigate this at this point, going on way too long exercise, but you can put running back 1 and then say, but wait till the second or third round for reason.
Yep.
That's fine. Anyway, you can take it from there. I just think let's lay that out. We both agree.
Let's start.
All kind of need the same thing. We're a little off on exactly what order they are, but we're basically there.
Let's start at 10. Let's start with running back. Everyone wants to talk about Ashton Jeanty. I love Jeanty. I want to be very clear here. I think he's a fantastic player. His contact balance is great. He's got the home runs. Huh?
It's Bernie Sanders. That was Bernie Sanders. Let me be clear. You said you want to be clear.
Yeah.
Let me be clear.
He's got home run hitting.
I'm not an impressionist.
He's got great contact balance.
If I did a good vision, it would be anti-Semitic.
There we go. But I'm not a good impressionist either. It's cool. I can do
like too good of a Bernie Sanders impression is a bit anti-Semitic, I might say. So it's good that I can't do one.
That's fair. Don't. Going on. Before we describe the episode. Before we describe the episode.
Mickey was the anti-Semitic.
Jeanty, my issue with Jeanty is the contract that he gets. Typically what you're looking at with the draft is in the NFL Ringer draft show actually did a really good job explaining this. A podcast that I would not think would be good at explaining this did a really good job explaining it. Something that I've known for a while. Kelly? Yeah, but this is more of the nerd stuff. This is something that I've known for a while. And have been able to explain, but I heard it earlier and they're like, they make this point, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's a point that I would make too. So I'm going to make it as if it's my own, but I want to throw out there, they also did a really good job explaining it. So please go ahead and listen to theirs as well.
Nope. Ignore what he just said. I'll listen to this.
You are paying Ashton Jeanty what Saquon Barkley got. So if he is the best running back in the league, you have now gotten value for the contract that he gets. The name of the game in the NFL draft, especially in the first round, is to get surplus value. Because what you want to try to do, and this is actually a line that I'm going to steal from them because I think this was great, the way that they said it. You want to build a $500 million team for $280 million. And the way you do that is you get a Jalen Carter, right? Like the Eagles have, who you're paying a third, if not less, than what his value is as a player. If I get an average wide receiver, that contract is value at $10 million at an average wide receiver. I have to get the best running back in the league to get value. So that means if I get anything more than average from a wide receiver, I have gotten surplus value. This is the issue with Ashton Jeanty at 10. That is what they mean by like, hey, you don't draft a running back that high, is because the money that you're paying, right? The money that went to, help me out here again because we've been recording for long enough that my names are gone. Atlanta Falcons running back. Very good.
10 minutes. Bijan Robinson.
It's 10 minutes for, 4 days later. Bijan Robinson. Are you paying Bijan Robinson? Saquon, is he as good as Saquon Barkley? No, I love Bijan. I think he's a lot better than what he's produced. I think once he gets used correctly, he will become worth that.
I got
issues. Like, you have a ceiling.
I have to stop you really quickly here. just for a second, because you're making a wonderful point that I think is being a little bit skewed by some factual inaccuracies. The 10th pick in the draft gets about 5 million AAV. It's not. It's about half, maybe a third of what Saquon is now making. There's absolutely surplus value in going with a different position, but it is not the same.
Second.
If you hit on a receiver at the 10th pick, you got that guy locked up for 5 years for a quarter of what a receiver makes. With a running back, you're only doing for about half of what a running back makes. The point still stands, but the 10th pick gets about 5 million AAV.
No, it's more than that, but you're right. It's not exactly where Saquon's making. So it's 10,
Right.
10 plus 15, 25 over 4 years.
25 over 4 is about 6, or it is
6.25.
6.35.
You're right. Okay, I was a little off there. That
so
would
Josh Jacobs makes like 12.
Now, to be fair,
Barkley makes.
I'm off there because
like
of
17.
Yeah, I'm off there specifically because 2 podcasts were wrong about that. To be clear.
Well, Bijan went with the 7th, so it's a little higher. Or is that what you just looked up, Bijan?
So 7th pick this year. Yeah, if you're going off of Bijan, it would be a little bit higher. Bijan was 7. Gibbs was 12.
Yeah.
Bijan is 7. Yeah. Okay. So 7 would be. I can tell you in a second.
Who was the 10th pick last year? Who got drafted after Rome Odunze? It was an offensive guy, JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy contract. What does he make?
Yeah. Total value for the 7th pick this year would be 31 million.
JJ McCarthy makes 5.5 a year. He was the 10th pick last year, so 5.5 is about what the 10th pick makes. It goes up incrementally up the. There you go. But we're looking at paying this guy 5.5
total value. Total value of the contract for the first pick for the Bears would be 26,635. There's a chart on over the. Just go to overthecap.com/drafts.
We're quibbling over almost nothing. You repeated a couple times. I just want to make sure that you're on point, because your point is correct. It is absolutely correct. We don't want to say he'd be making the same, is all I'm saying.
Right. You'd be making Tony Pollard money. You know what? My point's correct, but I will say this: I'll risk it for Tony Pollard money.
Well,
so I'm going to retract my statement. I would risk it for Tony Pollard money.
But
thank you for correcting me.
But as somebody who will take Ashton Genty, because I've considered all this stuff, because we will think about this stuff all the time. That's why we're such gigantic fucking nerds. There still is the question of opportunity cost. Yeah, you can get Tony Pollard. You can pay somebody Tony Pollard money to give you Bijan Robinson production or Jahmyr Gibbs production, or even better. But you could also pay somebody Garrett Wilson money to be giving you what Garrett Wilson should actually be making production, which is 5 times more than he's making.
Also,
so there is that you're passing on the opportunity to get a much more high dollar value player with that pick. That still stands.
Yes, and to be clear, Saquon also got an extension that I'm not counting into this on March 7th. That does put him up at like 20 million AAV.
Yeah, now he's like
before that. 18. Yeah, now he's like way up. But we're talking about the contract from last year because I want to compare it to what the running back market typically is.
Also, not a lot has changed. Really quickly, this fits into the draft context, because anytime we talk about the draft, we should always go back to King Howie Roseman. What an absolute king Howie Roseman is for somehow having enough money to piss away on rewarding what Saquon Barkley just did, because that was not smart to do, but it was a good thing to do.
And do you know why he has that money?
And he's able to do it because he's so damn smart, and it's going to make the whole locker room so happy. I love that. I love that so much.
Offensive linemen on cheap deals because he drafts trenches.
Extends early. Extends early. Always beats the market.
Devonta Smith gets a $25 million extension that I'm like, that's a lot for him. But somehow, it's like how he knew what was about to happen, because a month later, we get 30 million, 27.5. Like Waddle gets, I think, 3-4 million more than Devonta Smith. I wouldn't say that Waddle's worth 3-4 million, but the market moved that much in that amount of time that he saved.
We never really talked much about the Super Bowl, and there's certainly no reason to start now. But I remember immediately after the Eagles won, I remember being like, Eagles. Like this season was it's like defined by the Eagles now. Like
You
this
and
wasn't
I,
the Eagles season. But then I thought about it and I was like, Saquon, just Howie Roseman.
AJB,
Every season should be
Devonta
defined.
Smith. You got an
I'm
offensive
not
line
talking about
that's
the
insane.
players. I'm talking about this wasn't the Eagles season to win in my mind. This wasn't an Eagles heavy season, you know? When you think about the
Yep.
teams during the regular season that like stood out to you,
Narrative.
the Eagles were never one of them. Narratively, it just didn't make sense. But then I was like, yeah, but every season is the Eagles season when Howie Roseman does what Howie Roseman does.
He's so
God,
good.
what a king.
Remember when Chip Kelly put him as like president and then said no, not GM though, so like go do other things.
And now you've been sleeping on NFL news, so I expect you to get this wrong. But if you get it right, you get a cookie.
Oh,
Who is Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator of?
Raiders, isn't he?
Cookie.
I have been sleeping on it.
I'm tossing to you. Catch it.
Oh, I ate it.
Didn't want you to use your hands, but okay.
Well, you know what? I grabbed it. Did I catch it like this? I don't know. I went.
See, this is the energy I wanted on the first podcast.
Makes more sense on this one because
you've had like 4 beers.
Yeah. So going back to it. I think with that point, and now that I actually looked at the salary, instead of just assuming what I've heard on 2 different podcasts, both very reputable, was true. I'd be okay with it.
Don't listen to them because they don't have a fact checker, and this one does, like me.
Yeah.
That's why.
Thank you for calling me out on that. By the way, I appreciate getting called out on things that I'm wrong about, and we'll keep that live so people can see that I was wrong.
He is
because I like transparency.
He's holding a knife. He's so pissed.
Yeah, I'm so mad. No, I like transparency over anything. I appreciate when people are transparent on their own stuff when they correct themselves. So at that, if you can get, because at that point we're talking, okay, is he going to give you like Devin Singletary? Yeah, I mean, I see that as a good average, right? Like that, if he's giving me Devin Singletary, I'll be mad because it's like, you should be better than that. But that's why I think that you can draft Ashton Genty there, because I think he's going to, like, that projection of him being better than Devin Singletary is pretty high. So yeah, you would get surplus value. Now that doesn't mean, because like if we go to wide receiver, right, at that same thing, we need less than Tutu Atwell to get value, right? Because Tutu Atwell got 8 for the year. Granted, it was just for a year, but he got $8 million for a year. You need less than that, or you get Tutu Atwell level and you just save $3 million, right? Once you start getting into like Darnell Mooney money, you're saving almost double what you're paying him, right? So like you get Darnell Mooney at that point as a wide receiver prospect, you're saving double. That's where it comes in, where it's still a good point. However, since there is some room to save, and I do like Ashton Genty a lot, I'm more okay with it now than I was during my.
I brought up Ted McMillan 4 days ago. If the Bears simply do draft Ted McMillan, which I would not hate at all, I think a lot of people would hate it. If the Bears simply drafted Ted McMillan, or just choose a receiver that you like,
Get back and get me a Mika Ibuka.
Doesn't even necessarily have to be in this draft. Yeah. But they draft Ted McMillan, and he becomes T. Higgins. You have saved yourself $22 million, $20 million, something like that.
Was he 27, I think? Right?
Yeah.
Shoot, I could just look it up. Positions. I think it was 27, but I might be wrong, so I want to look it up. 28.75. So yeah, you're saving. It's at 65.
22-ish. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're saving 22 million if he becomes T. Higgins. Now that's a big if, but let's say he becomes Jerry Jeudy, right? Where the hell I just saw him. You're still saving that 17.5. You're still saving 12. You can go spend that somewhere else, like on Saquon.
Can I just say, last year I evaluated Jerry Jeudy as one of the best receiver prospects I've ever evaluated, and he made me look so bad for so long. And then last year I was finally like, yes, I'm not a total idiot. I know receivers.
Khalil Shakir got an extension already?
Who?
Khalil Shakir? Has it been 3 years? Oh man, it's been 3 years.
He just got one, yeah. What did he get?
They don't have the
51.
I mean, this includes his 2 years that he's got left, so take it with a grain of salt. 13.25 AAV, but that includes the 2 years he's got left, which are nothing.
They're only paying Khalil Shakir. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, no, it's because it includes the years that. So new money, I don't know what the new money. It doesn't have the reporting on what the new money was.
Okay, I guessed about 17 AAV. That's probably about right then.
Yeah. Okay. So the
17.
extension was 4 years, 53 million. And I don't know if that's new money or not.
If that's all new money, bravo to the Bills. That is an absolute steal.
It's good.
That's 13. That is 13.
Khalil Shakir was our slot. I like Khalil Shakir coming out. That was one of my guys.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Shakir, Tank Dell. I mean, I've had some misses. Don't get me wrong. So that's a long way of explaining positional value and why running back positional value sometimes doesn't make sense. And that's the argument there.
Yeah.
I'll be fine with Genty. What are your thoughts?
I think in Seth Wildfong tweet, I ranked Genty. So this is assuming. I think my preface was I'm just going to rank all the guys because the Laramie Tunsil thing could happen to anybody. Nowadays, it'd have to be something
Including Abdul Carter. Did you rank Abdul Carter? Did you rank Travis Hunter? Do you think Travis Hunter would?
Every one of them.
Like, because Travis Hunter's there, I'm taking Travis Hunter.
Why not just rank the first 3 guys that you don't think are going to be there just in case? So yes, I started with Abdul. Then I went Travis Hunter is who I would take if Abdul did not fall.
I'll take Travis.
Then I think I went Mason Graham. Then I think I went James Pierce. Might have done one more guy that I'm forgetting. Will Johnson, who that's just not on the table, unfortunately. I don't think. But
he's
6.
not been high on
I
consensus sports. I don't think.
That's what I'm saying. It's just no. I'm saying it's not on the table because if he falls to 10, we're not even looking at him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
That's my guess.
I thought you meant like not on the table, like he's not going to be there. I was like,
No.
Okay.
There's a part of me that wants to fire up hot take, but this is all just a weird prank on both of us, and Will Johnson is still going to go like 5th at the end of the day.
I had him.
What are we doing?
I had him and Mason Graham as top 10, no doubt, and now they're both outside the top
10. Kenneth Grant is weirdly falling in mocks. Mason is holding steady. I still think there's a chance that Mason could slip through to us, but Mason's floor is 10.
I pulled up the consensus board that I trust, not the draft, the one with all the ads. This is the one. This is Jack Lick 10 consensus. 2025 consensus board. Mason Graham's still 3. Will Johnson's 4. They use 33rd team, Bleacher Report, NFL Draft Buzz, CBS, Draft Tech, ESPN, PFF, Tankathon, USA, and what is WF? Walter Football, which I don't like.
All right, well, we're done with that. That guy's a real piece of shit.
Yeah, that's one that I probably wouldn't include, but the other ones, I mean, those are good boards to include. My issue with draft boards is...
See, when I was still on Twitter, the argument I got on that Walter guy.
No, I don't remember this one.
I got so much fanfare. I don't remember exactly what it was, but man, did I put that guy in his place, and a lot of people liked it, and it felt so good.
He's an asshole too.
He's a MAGA motherfucker.
Yes, he is. Will Johnson at 4, so maybe he won't be there. I like Will Johnson. He's
no way. I've not seen a single mock draft that has him.
Well, so that's the thing, though. 33rd team has him 2nd. Bleacher Report has him 5th, which I know. CBS has him 2nd. Draft Tech has him 4th. ESPN has him 5th, 6th, and these aren't mock drafts. These are based off of big boards, right? This is a big board consensus board.
These people have smart big boards, but I'm just saying there's the other side of it, the buzz, and the buzz is often right. That I have not seen him drafted in a mock draft of any note higher than 11 of the 49ers.
You're talking about March buzz, right? Because April buzz is always smoke. I always see April buzz as smoke.
In months. It's been like 2 months since I've seen anybody projecting Johnson in the top 10.
I'm super blue, and I don't know why. I'm assuming it's just the glare. But okay. Ted is, just to go through it, Genty's 5th. Ted is 6th. Malachi Stark's at 7.
All right, this is fucked. I'm sorry, man. This is fucked. This is not resembling what people are thinking the draft is going to look like.
Well, I know that. So I know Bleach, like what am I saying? Bleacher Report. The Ringer has some of these guys higher than most people do, and I know that Yahoo does too, because I listen to Charles McDonald, Nate Tice, and I listen to the Ringer guys a ton. Or I've listened to them recently, thankfully, because I was driving a lot today, even though I haven't been paying attention as much as I probably should. But let's go on. Let's talk. We've talked Ashton Genty. Let's move on to another fan favorite at a position that. And here's actually really quickly one other thing. Ben Johnson does have a good point. If it's a weapon and you're not seeing him as a running back like you saw Jahmyr Gibbs as a weapon, yes, I agree with that. That's how you should see these guys. But again, you're paying them based off of their position at the end of the day. So it's what contract value, because no matter what, they might say, well, I'm a weapon, so I should make more. When they go to do negotiations, what is the contract value that he's going to get after 4 years is going to be based off of his position. But I agree, that weapon does make it more of an advantageous selection. Now, going on, Tyler Warren's getting a lot of talk.
Yeah, that's the natural next place to go. I will just really say with Genty, like I said, okay with it. I rank him behind 6 guys. This
Buy
draft to
his
me,
jersey.
this draft to me, I think we maybe should have let off with this. I really feel like anywhere from the 10th pick to the 50th pick, almost nobody who's going to go in that range would surprise me if they go at the beginning or the end of that spectrum.
I'd say
I'm so confused by almost everybody in that range. It's all over the place. So I think starting with James Pierce on the big board that I rattled off, I'd rather just trade down. But forced to make a pick if every other team in the league also is realizing this is all the same in this range. Let's just make the pick. There's no reason to trade up. Forced to make the pick, totally fine with Genty is where I would land on that.
So, and I want to add a couple more points because you're right. We should talk really quickly draft overall. Not a lot of teams, from my understanding. I was listening to Daniel Jeremiah on this. Teams they asked if teams are going to adjust their charts. They're not going to adjust their charts. They are going to adjust what they're willing to pay on top of it. And that means that they might be willing to pay less than the chart, if that makes sense, to trade up in this draft. So whereas normally like to trade up, you might do like 1.2 times to trade up. This time they're like, it could be like 0.95.
Yeah, the significant trade down hope to me, I won't say it starts and ends at, but it is if Shedeur falls to 10, can we convince Pittsburgh? Which is tough because what is Pittsburgh bidding against even in that case? Because he's made it past all the other.
If he gets a 10, you could be bidding against some of the bottom of the second round guys, or top of the second round guys a little bit. If he gets a 10,
yeah, but that's a stretch to trade down from. To have somebody believe that you're going to trade down from 10 all the way to.
I gotta look at the draft order.
The Giants take Abdul Carter at 3, and then they're looking to come up from 34 to 10. Like, I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, you could also be looking at
Rams. You pretend the Rams are doing it. I'm just saying. I'm just floating
things
out there.
Seahawks could be trying. I know they just paid. Seahawks could be trying. You could argue the Rams because they need to replace. They need eventually a solution after Stafford leaves. After that, no, everyone's got basically an established quarterback. Bucks might be looking for Mayfield replacement if they want to go up there. That's a very far stretch. And Colts could be looking for somebody outside Anthony Richardson, maybe on top to add more competition. I know they just also signed.
I think they're going with
Daniel
this
Jones,
weird little plan. I
Daniel Jones is not a real.
But if Shedeur dropped to 14, I don't think the Colts would even consider it. I don't. I think the real thing is if Tyler Warren falls, I think we're looking at maybe we can convince somebody to trade up a few spots for Tyler Warren.
Yep.
Which segues us into the idea of possibly drafting Tyler Warren.
Here's the thing. Tight end market's very similar to the running back market, except a lot of the middle tight ends are more at here, let me put it. $12 million for like Dalton Schultz instead of like 8, right? But they're all grouped up pretty close. I think Trey McBride just set the market at 19. Travis Kelce had the market set for a few years at like 17,125. After the cap, since that contract with Travis Kelce, it's probably about the same percentage wise. I would need to do the math on that. But
Yeah. You said
considering,
Trey. I zoned out for a second. You said Trey McBride, right?
yep, McBride's making 19 AAV. So like you can still get some good surplus value. I'm fine with it because I think that, how do I put this? If we take Tyler Warren, it would be about as, I'd probably be about as happy as with Ashton Genty in the sense that I think he can be a good weapon, right? And you would be drafting a weapon. I would probably would rather have Ashton Genty there. I think the likelihood of Ashton Genty hitting his 50th percentile is higher than what I would think Tyler Warren's 50th percentile is, for instance. So the floor to me is a lot safer, right? But that's with all running backs.
Right.
Which is kind of an issue there. Tyler Warren versus, here, let me pull this up real quick because I'm going to pull up a different board. Tight ends, right? So like I think Colston Loveland versus Tyler Warren, you're looking at two very different types of tight ends. So it's a hard argument to make there.
Right.
What do I think versus like Terrence Ferguson in the 3rd round from Oregon?
That's my guy, man.
I like Ferguson. Actually, when I was doing mocks, I was mocking Ferguson to the
When
Bears.
I'm looking at, you really want to look at a couple things with tight ends, and this is not to take anything away from Tyler Warren. Well, actually, it is, because this is a part of my argument against Tyler Warren. We've said it a billion times. We'll say it again. Most of the good tight ends in this league were drafted in the middle rounds. And they were drafted in the middle rounds because teams have historically done a bad job of knowing what to value in a tight end.
To be fair, people will point to,
there's a lot of guys to point to, and Brock Bowers is one of them. But Brock Bowers had the exact profile of somebody that should have been drafted highly. Granted, we both showed our whole ass by not being okay with Brock Bowers, but we were proven wrong. We have another data point, and now we admit should have drafted Brock Bowers. Probably.
He's a total stud.
But point being, Terrence Ferguson has like all of the things that historically have lent themselves to being an elite tight end. They also historically can lead to being a bust. It's not a guarantee, but if you're looking for like a Travis Kelce or whatever, Terrence Ferguson has great agility drills. He's pretty fast in the straight line, and he's very, very good after the catch.
The thing that actually has been very highly predictive is yak. Yards after catch at tight end is incredibly important. When you go back in history and look at what tight ends have done well, the tight ends that have produced yak in college have typically been good tight ends in the NFL.
And even without having to explain it, if you just kind of pause for a second and think about it, you can picture it and say, oh yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
They're making catches in space over the middle so that they can continue
yes,
typically.
There's a lot of guys who can catch the ball and fall down. We have one that's not elite, and that brings me to Tyler Warren. I saw Tyler Warren play. I was very scared of him because I was watching my favorite team play him in the semifinal for the right to go to the national championship game, and he was the only one that was doing anything in the pass game for Penn State. That said, he's a senior. God, did I already get that wrong? I don't think that's right. But
you and I haven't talked about Terrence Ferguson, I don't think, at all.
He is a senior. No, but we both know what to look for, and that's the guy.
That's fair. Yeah.
Tyler Warren is a senior. This was his only year of any real production. Yards after the catch, I don't think he tested at the combine. I don't know if he's had a pro day, and even if he did, he probably didn't do any of the stuff I care about. And he was tied for 46th in college football for yards after the catch per reception, whereas Terrence Ferguson was like 3rd.
Yep.
I'm not even convinced that Tyler Warren is a straight up better prospect than Terrence Ferguson, period. So a 10 for me, that is a no dog.
Just to give people context, 6.7 yards after catch per reception. So Yak 6.7 per versus 9.
Yeah, 6.7 is
That's
good. It's not
it's
like
so good.
it is good. It's
Like
not.
I think he'll be a good tight end. Don't get me wrong. We pick him. I think he'll
Yeah,
still do well. It's just, do I want him there, or do I say maybe wait till the third and pick something else there, and then take a chance on Terrence Ferguson, especially
right.
because we already have Cole Kmet,
You're
and then
asking you're asking of Tyler Warren basically be Gronk, and if he's Gronk, we look stupid. But if
yes,
he's not Gronk, he's not really any of the other elite tight ends worthy of a
yep.
top 10 pick throughout the past 20 years or so.
If he's like Brock Bowers, sure, but I don't think he's profiles like Bowers at all. Bowers is more like
Bowers
a
was if Bowers did not lead college football in Yak last season, I'd be fucking shocked.
yep.
It's not all about yak and it's not all about agilities. There's a ton of stuff. It takes a real scouting eye. But I watch Tyler Warren, I just see it is so easy for me to see a better contested catch version of Cole Kmet. It's not screaming 10 to me personally.
Yep. Bowers 8.7 Yak. So a little less than Ferguson, but that's up. That's going to be up there.
And granted, I'll say this with Ferguson. Oregon offense is wide open. They scheme dudes open. Terrence Ferguson could have walked those 9 yards every time. He didn't, but he could have. Well, he could have walked about 7 of them. Those extra 2 are what interest me.
Yep.
It's a different type of athlete, and
Yep.
Ferguson has a lot of stuff that doesn't work for him quite as well. He's not as natural at catching the ball. He's not as naturally. He has more athleticism in the track and field sense, but he's not as natural of an athlete.
Which would tell me more like Cole Kmet, because that's, I think, my issue with Kmet is, and to be clear, I think Kmet's worth his contract. Again, I'll always say that. Kmet's issues have been, how do I readjust to the ball, right? Because you're not going to get a perfectly
Right.
accurate ball over the middle when people are under pressure, etc. And he has issues adjusting to the catch when he's got to flip his hips and do things.
Yeah, I would just say though, if you're taking a guy at 10 and you're already probably admitting to yourself, this guy can't be Kittle, he can't be Kelsey, and I think
Yep.
that's fair to say with Warren, he probably cannot be. There's nothing in his profile that says he
So
can be. I would
mock
say
draft,
don't draft at a 10. Draft something
mock
else later that maybe could be.
one thing that does bug me, he's got 11th percentile on Ferguson. I didn't know this. 11th percentile hand size. That's a little concerning. Arm, probably where the contested catch issues come in, because also his arm length is at 44th percentile. However, you want to get into space as a tight end, I think, mostly. If you're a receiving threat at tight end, you want to find space and get into space, which he has a knack for doing. And his 10-yard split is 90th percentile, which is at a 10-yard split as a tight end. That's what I want. I want you to be able to run a 10-yard crosser, right?
That's
Get
nice.
open 10 to 15 yards.
I want to see
40
agilities on top of that though.
agilities, he didn't test unless it's
Exactly.
on
It bugs me. I assume he didn't, and it bugs me. I really want to see the
six
agility of tight
five. Is it
ends.
going to be that much worse than a 6'6" guy? Depends on the leg length too. So let's
I don't know
see.
what he did because I think Ferguson did quite well.
I don't. Let me double check and see if RAS somehow has it. But yeah, I mean, it's opportunity cost is what we're talking about here, right? What are the chances that you get more out of another guy at 10 and then take like a Ferguson type? And it doesn't have to be Ferguson, but a Ferguson type later. You have the chance of hitting on 2 guys versus, let's take Warren here, and then what are the chances I hit on like a guard later on or something like that for a future like depth piece, etc. That's where the issue comes in. Now, if we take Warren again, I'll say I'll be fine with it. I'm not going to be upset, right? Not going to be super happy. Genty, I would buy his jersey. Warren, I probably wouldn't buy his jersey. I like Ashton Genty as a player, shit ton. So, I think
I'd
that's
probably buy
good.
both
On
jerseys, I'll be honest, but
really,
I just something about Gentry would get a little more juiced up.
I mean, I would
Guy handles
support
the rock
Warren.
20 times a game.
And again, it goes back to the players don't pick where they get picked. I'm going to support the player. Like, I don't think Cole Kmet was worth a second. He's worth his contract. We're not worth a second because we just talked about tight ends you can get later. I'm not mad at Kmet. Shit, I'll evaluate him regardless of where he was picked and decide if he was worth his contract based off of how he's done. that it would be an evaluation on the GM, not on the player. So I don't hold it against the player if they get picked there, just to be very clear.
I'm a fool. Ferguson did not do agilities. My bad. But I suspect they're probably pretty good. Regardless, looking at agilities, another one I would say is Harold Fannin Jr. I think you were macking him early on in the process, and I told you John Smith is his comparison. And now everyone coming out of the woodwork telling me Harold Fannin is like John Smith. I said it a long time ago, damn it.
Yeah.
But that's another guy. That's another shot worth taking.
Yeah, I was mocking him months ago, though, wasn't I?
Oh, a really long time ago. Before
Yeah,
you knew who he was. Like
Yeah.
before you'd seen, like I had seen Bowling Green play their bowl game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this dude.
So his 86 broad jump, they don't have his percentile, but Ras does have his vertical at 39 inches. That's a damn good vert for Ferguson.
Yeah, man, I'm saying. I mean, we're on the same page here.
Yeah.
I think we'd both be
we got
very,
those
very
explosions.
we'd be excited. But again, for every Ferguson, there is a Zach Kuntz who
Yep.
fell out of the draft almost entirely and has never been heard from again.
Mm.
But these are the shots that I want to be taking with tight end. I'm not interested in a first round tight end in almost any situation unless they. Now that I've learned, they have all of it like Brock Bowers does.
Tyler Warren did not test anything like athletically, but he did test size wise. You know, I was upset about the 44th percentile arm length and the 10th percentile hand size.
Oh, you were
11th
throwing a
percentile
tantrum.
Yeah, arm length is 10th percentile, hand size is 25th percentile for Tyler Warren. So a little bit better hand size, smaller arms, and his wingspan is also significantly, because the wingspan on Ferguson's 72 versus 9th percentile.
Yeah.
That's some.
Listen, I'm not going to predict that Tyler Warren is going to be a bust. Again, I watched him. I was afraid of him
I think he's good
as an opponent. But if Vegas gives me odds, yes, no, will Tyler Ferguson bust? Compared to what everybody else thinks, I will be pounding yes, he will bust.
If the odds are like bust for like plus 150, I'm taking it. So in case anyone wants to know what the probability is for that, implied probability of plus 150 is 40% chance. I'd take a 40% chance because that's a little bit better, because usually it's a coin flip for like a first rounder. It's better than a coin flip. 60% chance he hits. So I'll do that.
I haven't even really considered Loveland.
I like Loveland. I think he's more of, he would be your Komet replacement after Komet's done with his contract.
I don't love Loveland, but I like Loveland.
Did I say love? Did I say like? I can't remember.
No, and I screwed up the joke I was going for, so let's skip it.
Yeah, skip it. Cool.
I don't like Loveland, but I love Lakeland.
Let's talk about Will Campbell. Let's move on. I already had a little bit of a rant on Will Campbell. I'm going to say this. We pick him at 10. I'm happy because I think we need a swing guard, and I think we need a Joe Tooney eventual replacement, and I think he'll be an all-pro guard. And guards, thankfully, because the market went up on them, make enough money where I'm like, there's enough surplus value there that if he hits, relatively decent, if he's a Jonah Jackson, right? Probably his 70th percentile chance of hitting like Jonah Jackson at card, I would say. He hits a 70th percentile. I'm getting 12 million in surplus value. So like, yeah, I gave Will Campbell a little bit of shit. I don't like him at tackle. His wingspan is the biggest outlier. When he went up against good edge rushers, i.e. NFL talent, because guess what? A lot of tackles that are going into the draft are going to do well against most edge rushers in college because they can't hold a candle to most edge rushers in the NFL. When he went up against good edge rush talent, like in the A&M game, when he went up against Stewart, another guy we'll probably talk about, at 10, he did not do well. It shows up. So yeah, it does show up on the arm length does show up on tape when he has to use it because he's going against guys that he'll go up against in NFL. Like, I'm not even talking like we don't even know if Shamar Stewart's going to be an NFL good edge, but he's good enough to go to the NFL. So that's and be like a top first round pick, right? Not top first, but first round pick. It's what you got to look at. That's the tape you got to look at. He just shows me his measurables match the tape when he does that. But I would take him. I would still take him because as we need a guard, Guards make good money, and I think he'd be an all-pro guard. I think he'd be a stud.
Yeah, so this is the other side of the I think the way of framing it, the money you could save by doing this or that is a great way of framing it, but I think it comes up a little short when it comes to positions like tight end actually and guard. Guard is not a position I would ever be willing to take in the top 10. I don't think I'd ever be willing to do that.
Okay, so
Unless it was just an unbelievably weak draft, and I was positive this guy was going to be a great guard. And
it is an
in
unbelievably
that
weak
case,
draft.
I'd probably like it. No, it's not. It's not a great draft, but it's not unbelievably weak.
Fairly weak compared to the most recent ones, but yes, go on.
This draft is stronger than last draft.
Are you kidding? Offensive talent last draft was great, and the defensive talent that went in the 20s was great.
Yeah, because they overdrafted the offensive talent.
Some of it, yeah, sure. Towards the end, I would agree with you there, and quarterbacks maybe possibly, but we're talking. This is a better drafted. Hold on, let me be clear here. This is a better drafted positions of high value, or that was a better drafted positions of high value. They were better tackles. They were better wide receivers. They were better corners. Well, maybe not corner. Actually, I'm going to retract corner. I think this draft might be pretty good at corner. They're better wide receivers, better tackles. Edge defender, I think, considering how good Chop Robinson actually was, and I think we were right to say he's probably more of a first rounder. And then you have Verse.
We're not doing hindsight.
Okay, fine, sure, but I do think boards were just wrong on them, so even that was foresight. Edge defender, you have a deeper edge class in this one. I don't know if I would argue the top is probably a little bit better, but I don't know if I would argue that much better. Deeper though, I think is much deeper edge class. I think interior defensive line is better in this one.
I think that is true. I think what you gotta remember is the amount of complaining we were doing about last year's draft class, specifically the depth.
The depth wasn't great, but yes,
this is a deep draft class.
We're talking about 1.10. We're talking about the 10th pick.
So this is not
what. So you would trade back, but okay, you need to have a trade partner there. If your argument is I'd rather trade back than take a guard, sure. But if there isn't that much talent at 10 that I would be, because there's not a lot of blue chip. I'd rather have a guy who I think might be a blue chip guard, right? If not a purple chip guard. I don't know.
I'd rather, so, all right, well, let me
Quentin Nelson is there at 10.
Would you take
Quentin Nelson?
Yes, because I'm sure that he will be a Pro Bowl guard.
Yes. That's what I feel like Will Campbell could be a Pro Bowl. I would say his 85th percentile gets him there.
Okay.
75th percentile.
I'll make a couple of points. Just let me get them out really quick.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I would need to do to draft Quentin Nelson, or if we're saying that, let's just say Will Campbell is definitely the same thing as Quentin Nelson. One thing I would definitely need is a spot in my lineup for him. And now, if he's Quentin Nelson, you'll find a spot in the lineup. But in this case, it would be right guard, and then Jonah Jackson would be sitting on the bench. That feels wasteful from an overall roster.
So here's the difference. Though. I am okay with having it be a 2-year, because I personally think offensive line needs good development, and I would rather invest in the trenches for rotational / developmental prospects that I think have a high chance of hitting and letting them sit at 10 and then addressing other positions later if I think this guy could be that good in 2 years. Again, Tooney only has a year left on his contract. He looks good in practice.
We don't have to extend through next year.
No, just a year left is what I said. Double check.
Like literally just this year?
Just this year.
Okay.
So to me, and even if he had till next year, I would rather have, he's only signed through 2025, according to OTC.
Okay.
I would rather have the next guy up and be like the Eagles, where it's like, okay, cool. I mean, they signed Becton after they needed him. But I'd rather be like the Eagles, where the model is let's build off the trenches and make sure that these are good, just in case, because injury is a big thing. Interior offensive line get injured, and have that piece for a replacement now. If you know you've got a guy that you think will be really damn good anyway, then go somewhere else.
Sure. Let me. Well, I had a couple other points, but I want to push back slightly on that and say, would you not agree that? So the idea that you're saving money by drafting a guy who is making less than the best players of the position, would you not agree that if you maybe kind of waste a year by possibly having to sit on the bench all year,
You're wasting
that
that
math
contract year.
drastically changes
You're wasting
because
that contract year.
you're getting 1 year closer to when he is going to be making real money
Yes, I
without having to
agree
use
with
it.
you. You do have the 5th year option, which is nice, but yes, I agree with you. You do lose a year, and you do lose a little bit of value. However, I think 3 years, one, offensive linemen rarely do good their rookie year. They just don't. It's rare. Tristan Wirfs aside, a couple other guys. JPJ, I think, did well. These are tackles now that I'm talking about. Let's talk about guards. Quentin Nelson did well, I believe, his rookie year.
Who's
How many guys?
JPJ?
Cardinals tackle. I 2 years. He was drafted the year we drafted. He was drafted
Oh,
6th
Jackson
year.
Powers, the Raiders guard.
No.
Oh, PJJ, Paris Johnson Jr.
PJJ, Paris
Gotcha,
Johnson Jr. Thank you.
gotcha,
I said
gotcha,
JPJ.
gotcha.
Yeah, Paris Johnson. PJJ. I should at least have the acronym right. Trying to like work with the fact that the brain has been going on names for longer than the brain's used to going on names. PJJ. That all aside, now let's talk about like a trade back scenario. If I can trade back and I can get like a 2nd round pick, and then I can go instead of, so if we go interior offensive line, guards, if I can go like Tyler Booker, Tate Rutledge, the guy from NDSU, for instance, if he somehow falls, maybe I'm trading back, taking somebody else and going there. I do think that Will Campbell is probably one of my higher targets on my list of guys if they fall there that I would take.
So you have your other beloved chart that you bring up all the time, and it's from the drafting stage or whatever that book by Brad Spielberger is. And
Do you
there
want to know
is
like percentile chance hit? Is that what you're gonna know?
I don't want to know it here. I just want to quickly reference it and say that guard is one of those positions that is a little easier to find later.
Yes, I would agree with you, but what are the chances of hitting on an elite one early versus late? Because that's what I'm talking about here too, right? Like,
but can I say this? Now we're playing the hits here of the shit that we talk about all the time.
yep.
What does it necessarily matter that we hit on an elite one if the rest of the line is not joining him in being elite? He's not. It's not like a left tackle where he's
Okay,
elevating the
so
line.
if you have Jonah Jackson as an All-Pro, and then you have him as, or not an All-Pro, sorry, Pro Bowl, right? Not elite, but he gets voted into the status of like, hey, he's a top 12 guard,
Sure, let's be
and then you
generous.
add that
Let's be
with
generous.
an elite one, right? That's looking good.
But
That
our
will
but our
help
our
the run
current
game.
our current left guard is already elite. In fact, our current left guard is what Will Campbell would be striving
Yeah,
to be, and
yeah,
I would say is relatively likely to be from a young age.
right.
Um,
Our current left
but
guard is
would
33
you
on a
say that
1-year contract left.
would you say that our current offensive line is elite?
I would put our ability to no, because I would say our current offensive line is probably like a. It depends on what you define as elite. It's not a Lions. It's not the Eagles, right? Is it a top 5?
Right,
It could potentially be a top 5 offensive line depending on the tackle situation.
could be.
But I don't consider that elite because I think the drop off from 2 to 5 is quite massive, but it's as big of a drop off from 5 to like 12.
Okay, my instinct is that this has been going on too long. People get our point.
Yeah.
We mildly agree to disagree here.
Yep.
But what I want to get to is, in my mind, this is only worth it if there is, let's say, a 33% chance that Will Campbell can actually play left tackle.
That's the other thing that I wanted to throw out there, though, is I think
Right.
he could add to your swing. Joe Tooney adds to your swing, right? Because Joe Tooney has shown he can be
Sure, sure.
relatively top 25 offensive tackle, like not top 25 because you have to think about all the tackles. Top 25 left tackle. He can be a starting left tackle that gets beat by good talent.
I want to amend really quick. I need there to be a 33% chance that he is at least Taylor Decker, Jake Matthews, just a solidly every single year like a top 12 left tackle.
I would
Not
not
asking
put.
for elite left tackle, but I need there to be at least a 33%, 1 in 3
I
chance that
think
he is
most
at least
people.
that.
I think a lot of people would say yes because a lot of people think that he's at. I would not. I would put it at like 20.
That's where
I
I
would.
come down, and that's why I am a no, but I am going to add that of all the prospects I need to do some work on between now and 17 days from now, whatever it is. 12 days from now?
12
13
days.
days from now?
Yeah, we got.
13 days from now. Oh my God.
Yeah, we got less than 2 weeks.
Between now and 13 days from now, the player I need to form the firmest opinion on is Will Campbell,
That's right.
especially considering I'm pretty good at offensive tackles. My thought is a very rudimentary thought based on quickly scrambling to watch is no, because he compensates for the lack of length by setting too wide and he gets beat inside way
Yep.
too often. And that's the worst instinct.
Yep.
Get beat outside instead. I don't
Have your
like
running back help you flush the guy out if you get beat outside.
Yes.
You don't want to get
like
beat
that.
inside. Getting beat inside is, and that's going to be the issue, and that's where the
In
link
fact,
shows up. And that's
I will go a step further because these are two guys that are compared often. And in fact, this guy's lack of becoming elite already is what also scares me a little bit. I thought Peter Skoronski was actually, and again, the competition was worse, but I thought he had a better plan of attacking
he was a better
superior
technician.
athletes at left tackle than Will
He was a
Campbell.
better technician at left
Now,
tackle.
Will Campbell did have the production. Like, he did do it a little better than Peter Skoronski did. Not by much, but especially considering the level of competition, he did.
That's the thing.
But
Is
from
like
what
you're
I could
looking at.
tell, Skoronski had the better plan, and immediately he was a left guard.
He was
Just
also
no chance,
facing.
and also not that good, but not that good of a left guard yet.
He
So
also
it all
faced
just
better.
scares me.
He also faced better edge talent at a certain point.
Yeah,
Whereas,
I did.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's part of the thing. Is like that's going to be my issue with Will Campbell at offensive tackle. When he faced good edge talent, that's where you see the issues, right? Like just watch the A&M game.
So
Watch Bama if you want. Like, just take a second, pull in the tape of guys who would play in the NFL, not just tape of guys who aren't really worth the fucking pick to play in the NFL.
like I said, of all the guys in this draft, I have the most interest in watching some more of Will Campbell and another guy that I think fits relatively well into this conversation that we haven't mentioned, but Armand Membo.
Which I was going to
I
come to
need to
next.
watch. I need to watch both of them. I think Membo hits a lot of the same points as Campbell, but without quite the same arm length issue.
I don't know much about Membo, so I don't want to talk too much. My understanding is he's a right tackle, and he only played right tackle. I don't know how hard it would be for him to switch over. If he has the ability
you don't
to
want
switch, if he has the ability to play both sides, which, like, if you bring him in for a private visit, maybe you can work him out a little bit, get to see what his set is like on the left side, get to see what his balance is like, get a little bit more of an idea.
Yeah.
It's a hard projection. I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into Membo, but Membo is another pick. If we were to pick Membo, I would just trust the process and see what happens because I don't have enough knowledge.
For me, again, given more than any other position, offensive line is one that I got to sit down and watch it. And when I do, not to my own horn, I do tend to come away with pretty good opinions. And I haven't done it. I don't have opinions yet. But my instinct for both Campbell and Membo, for slightly different reasons, is they do not meet my arbitrary threshold of is 33% likely to be a good left tackle in the NFL.
Yep.
And therefore, no. If I'm picking an offensive tackle or an offensive lineman at 10, for me, it is Josh Simmons. Just that's where I'm landing right at this moment. Because I have noticed enough Josh Simmons, even after his thing, because I knew to look for him early, and I was impressed. He looked like Burris Johnson Jr. to me.
Just to be like, I know a lot of people are sitting there and being like, a lot of people, whoever the hell's listening, might be like 33%. It can't be that hard. Look at the amount of tackles that hit in the first round.
Anybody who's listening as a Bears fan, so they should know exactly how hard it is.
It is like and I'm trying to pull up because I did the work recently over the last 3 years. I'm trying to find it. I'm not going to. It is not the greatest hit rate. 33% is giving a lot of credit in the first round, especially after the top 5, like top 5, 6. Once that first OT comes off the board, it gets usually pretty shaky. Like, I know some Bears fans will give Darnell Wright a little bit of crap. Look at the rest of the guys that got drafted after him and how they're doing. in the first round, and you will realize, and also the guys from even the next year, which, to be fair, like JC Jackson did about as well as Braxton Jones did as a rookie, to be very clear.
Yeah. Well, to sum it up,
who had a good rookie.
The only tentative thumbs up I have on these four guys we've discussed is Genty. I'm a no on the other three, unfortunately.
I'm a no on Warren. I would be fine with it, but I'm a no. I would be okay, and I've already, like, Will Campbell, I'd be pretty happy, because I'd be like, future thinking, and we need depth really badly. Something can happen. Braxton Jones might not be great. You have two guys who might be able to potentially fill that, and you can fill the guard. So, like, to me, there's a little bit of, like,
I'm not throwing a tantrum with these two offensive linemen. I'm probably throwing one with Warren.
Okay, now we got to hit on two edges, and then I want to talk about trade back guys, specifically a tackle, and that's it.
See, I don't think that trade back guys are anything worth talking about, because
I want to talk about Connerly, because I think Connerly could be a damn good left tackle if given the chance to develop a little bit.
I don't have much to say about Connerly. I thought you meant defensive interior.
No. I guess we're not touching on. Okay, let's actually touch on one defensive interior. Mason Graham-Pulse. Or
yes,
what do you want?
I mean, of course, yes. That's not who I want to talk about, because that's just an of course yes.
Kenneth Grant.
I want to talk about two guys really quick, and their draft status is an absolute mystery to me. It's some people think they might be around at 39. When I watch them play, I don't know how that could be possible. Walter Nolan and Kenneth Grant.
So Kenneth Grant can be as high as 7 on boards on this consensus, and as low as 41. So, or I guess flip it, low as 7, high as 71, 41. So, like, yeah, he's all over the place. I like Kenneth Grant. We take Kenneth Grant, I'll be happy, because I agree with you. I think it's really good. Now, how much of that is?
So, it's weird when we talk about this all the time. There's such thing as a steal in the draft. If on draft day he falls to 39, I will be less excited than if we draft him at 10.
Right.
Which is crazy. But what drafting with 10 would say to me is that the rest of the NFL was likely to want him soon.
Well, it only takes one team to reach. It doesn't tell you anything. It takes one person to reach. But the reach isn't significant enough. True. The reach isn't significant enough.
The opposite, the inverse is what matters. If he falls 39, it means that every team passed on him once.
Yep.
It gives you all the information you need. And granted, just like, Devondre Sut last year, my evaluation was correct, and I'm still going to be pretty excited. But I'll be far less excited when I see every team pass on him, if that is the case.
And I love Chop Robinson. Every team passed on him. Chop Robinson looked great. We both, I think, love Chop Robinson.
Well, at least Chop went where he was supposed to. In fact, went a little higher than what people were.
Well, and it depends on who you're going off of, because these boards are all over the place. So, like, he might go at 39, where some people think.
I got to say, you're looking at some wild boards.
Okay, well, let's look at what PFF has, at least, then. Edge defenders. Or no, wait, interior. My fault. $16 for PFF. So yeah, he would fall at 16. You're saying 16 other teams after where he was supposed to go. No, wait, more than that. 16. 23. 23 teams have said, no, we don't think he's as good as what his ranking was. If he goes at 10, that's not a significant enough reach. There's like there's a calculation that goes in with those reach calls. It's like, hey, if he's like a standard deviation or 2 versus where he was going, 16 to 10, that's not huge. But sure, from 16 to 39, you're right. At that point, you've gotten the wisdom of the crowd, is what it's called, where all the NFL teams, basically, so wisdom of the crowds will either be the consensus sports, but when the NFL teams who are better evaluators all then disagree with the consensus, there's something wrong with the consensus. Typically, a steal isn't a steal. Now, you look at the Phillies and the steals that they've had; those have been pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, you defer to the smart GM sometimes on that.
Yeah. So Howie Roseman, taking Nakobe Dean in the 3rd round, when I was like, I didn't like Nakobe Dean. He's done pretty damn well. And then Nolan Smith, also a steal, also doesn't meet this criteria because he's looked pretty damn good as a pass rusher. So yeah, there's a little bit of that. I agree with you, but let's also caveat it with, like, hey, sometimes it's not always right.
So yeah, that said, I'm confused about some of the recent knocks I'm seeing. But again, I do think a lot of it is the weirdness between arbitrarily 10 and 50. There's a lot of weirdness there. So I'm a little less worried about that. Like I think again, teams are going to do what teams are going to do. They have their own boards and they're going to look wildly different from one another. Kenneth Grant though to me is I mean to me it's he's a slam dunk type pick. I don't know what anybody could be seeing in Kenneth Grant. Like maybe they don't see enough pass rush juice, but like even that for a guy his size is way above average. I am a big Kenneth Grant fan. I would be totally okay with taking him at 10. And then Walter Nolan is to me a classic 3-tech with absolutely requisite size, the number one overall recruit in the country by either 24/7 or Rivals, but not both. Was not great at his first school. It's escaped me for some reason, but transferred to Ole Miss, Texas A&M. But transferred to Ole Miss and put up 7 sacks, good win rate, all that stuff. Did exactly what was expected of him when he was recruited. I don't know what anybody else could want in these players. Like, yeah, there are some flaws, but these are borderline elite defensive interior linemen, which are very, very valuable. And I'd be good with either. Now, to wrap that up, because I don't have a lot more analysis than that, other than when I watched them, they looked really, really good to me compared to a lot of the guys that go higher. I was reading an ESPN article. It's recent. It's just intel on all 32 teams. First, Courtney Cronin goes for the Bears, and then either Matt Miller or Jordan Reed talks for the team. And I don't really respect Matt Miller or Jordan Reed at all, but they at least were pretending to have inside info. And their inside info was first, the Bears are in love with Ashton Genty. And
Dude,
second,
all this has come out since April. It's smoke, I think, personally. But go on.
Whatever. But this was so specific that I found it interesting. And
I wouldn't be shocked if we are, but I don't know if it tells us anything.
The second part was that the Bears consider defensive interior to be a bigger need than edge.
I would disagree specifically because we have more depth at defensive interior. Like,
and I think
a little bit more
upside.
I don't know if I'd say more upside because I think that with our two, like our edge 1 and 2, I think are better than our top 2 DTs, personally. But we have more depth, and I don't think they're that much better that I would be like, no, the depth isn't a concern. I would think edge is bigger than DT. You know what though? Oh wait, Billings. I forget about Billings.
Right, we go.
Billings is in. Is
Billings
he back
Dexter as starters, and then Jarrett, and they should all be playing. It's the thing about
Billings
Grant,
be back though right away. Here's Billings because he's got a pec tear, dude. That takes a while. Do we know?
I have not looked specifically, but I cannot imagine a pec tear is going to take him 10 months to come back.
It takes a year, I think, off of Andrew Billings injury update. Go on, keep talking.
For me, the reason I tend towards Kenneth Grant over Walter Norn, for example, is that what I think we need is more of the nose tackle type that Andrew Billings occupies, because maybe Billings is still hurt, and also Billings' level of play, while very good, seems less sustainable to me than Javon Dexter, who's also has had a pretty high level of play, trending upwards over the last 2 years.
He's recovering ahead of schedule. It looks like he'll be good for the new league year.
Yeah, and then Dexter then backed up or maybe usurped by
I would agree with you.
Pro Bowler right behind him. It's like we need a third.
We don't have a third edge.
I'm not going to say no. Nose tackle with Kenneth Grant, I could see it playing that position and overtaking Billings or taking his snaps.
Or move Billings
edge,
over to...
We do not have a third edge.
You can also always move Billings over to one tack. I think he'd be fine there. I mean, maybe a little bit on pass downs. He'd probably be fine there. I don't know how well he'd do on run downs. I don't think he's been as good of a run defender as I would hope for his size.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Not Billings, Dexter Lawrence. Yeah, sorry, did I say
yeah,
Billings? Billings is a phenomenal run defender.
right, Jervon Dexter.
Yeah, brains
Yeah,
flipping
on third
everywhere.
down, it doesn't really matter as much because usually the splits are kind of
Yeah.
identical on both sides. But
Sorry, I've been
on certain
going. This
downs,
is
I could see Dexter handling nose tackle for
yeah.
sure.
We're at 2.5 hours of recording basically, just because it hasn't been 4 days. It's actually been 10 minutes after the last one, if that wasn't obvious. So yeah, my brain's everywhere. Yeah, no, I would agree. I
I
would
just want to
agree
throw
with
that.
your.
I'd be pretty happy with both guys at 10, but Grant more so because positionally it makes sense to me. And again, I'm looking at this. This says BJ Raj for Grant. I think even that's not giving Grant quite enough credit for his level of athleticism.
Just to let you know, though, the Athletic has him on their consensus board, and we're using the Athletic now at 30th for Kenneth Grant. So
I
like,
just I don't I'm missing something. I
yeah,
clearly am missing something, but
yeah,
also other
they
people
have
have him
Walter.
high
No,
too, so
yeah,
I'm not missing that much.
I don't because the people that have him high, I do like Walter Nolan at 22nd. I'm also a big fan of Harmon, but Harmon's more of a three tech. I've been a big fan of Harmon. I think when he was still in like the third round by consensus, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. So I'm just gonna take him every damn time he falls to me. Um,
Yeah, and by the same token, I criticized every draft you sent me because I kept telling you Harmon's
he
going to go
wasn't gonna be
high.
there. Yeah,
I'm not.
you're right.
I wouldn't say that I'm a massive fan of Harmon. I would definitely take him at 39. But
Yeah.
these other two for me are, if they take him at 10, I'm absolutely not questioning it.
If we trade back and take a DT, I'd be happy. If we take one of them at 10, Walter, if it's Nolan or Grant, I'd also be happy because I think they're both very good. I do think we need an edge rusher more. If I had edge in
Yeah.
front of ideal, I had ideal second for a
Well,
reason.
we're stacking our boards right now, and what
Yep,
I'm coming to realize is that Genty, Grant, Nolan, yes, other guys behind those guys for
yep,
me.
for you. I'm not gonna go through mine. Just listen to what we've said. So let's go to because right now brain's mush. And I want to finish up the first round so that we can get back. Just talk really briefly about the second and end it. Let's get back to. We've talked about Will Campbell. We've talked about the DIs. We talked about Membu. Now let's get into some of the edge rushers that will be there.
Yeah.
Pierce might fall to 10, and then I think some people look at. So again, it goes back to what we talked about in the last episode that we recorded 4 days ago, 10 minutes before we started recording this.
Sure.
What type does Dennis Allen like? Shamar Stewart, I think, fits that type. As you've said this a while ago. I think you were the first one to point it out to me. And now I've seen some people talking about Shamar Stewart. Both of them have their red flags. Obviously,
Yeah.
Abdul Carter's not going to be there. Like, let's be honest. If he somehow falls, take it. Done. Oh, God. Don't even run that thing in. Don't even let it count down a few seconds.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, then you're wondering why I fell. Maybe the injury's worse
yeah,
than. But
injuries worse than it might be, but still, I take that
still
risk.
does stick. Just do it.
Yeah. The with especially because it's a foot injury. I mean, foot injuries can be pretty bad because you got a plant.
Whatever. It's not happening. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. So let's talk. I think specifically, let's keep our focus on those two. I don't think there's anyone else that you would want to compare up at, unless you want to talk a little bit about Mikael Williams.
I think Michael Williams absolutely belongs in the conversation.
Okay, so
Actually, a hell of a lot more than James Pierce does because we're not going to take James Pierce in my opinion.
I don't think so either. He's just too small, and it comes back. He does have the link though.
And
You're right
actually,
about that.
there's another guy, but how much time do we have? You know?
Yeah. The other thing with Pierce is, and again, you know this because I told you that I haven't been listening as much. The other thing with Pierce is some of the guys that I've listened to have said from the NFL, they don't know how much he loves the game. It comes back to that. Like, he doesn't show up at practices, for instance, from what I've heard from some sources. Other sources are like, yeah, we just need to figure out we just had to have a conversation with him and figure this out. So like, that's from like league sources coming to them. I haven't looked at, and I really wish I had time to do, but all the running around I had to do before this, and I was planning on doing it before this, but then all this other stuff happened. I really wanted to look at Brugler's Beast before this and actually see what he said. I think there's a little bit on it there, but it's not as bad as say some of the other stuff, which I think has come out of other sources about like missing practices and stuff like that. So like Pierce does have a little bit potentially of a what kind of guy is he character? stuff I didn't mention to you because I was driving most of the time after that.
Yeah.
So
I
let's
would
get
say
to the other
my
two
counter to
guys.
that is that Pierce pressured the passer better than everybody in this
Right.
draft besides Abdul Carter. So,
But he also missed his
Timmy
assignments
has as
on
well.
run defense because he was concentrating on making the big play a lot of times too, is one of the knocks that
Still had a
they gave
solid
him.
run grade.
Okay. Well,
Just
now
saying.
let's get back. I'm not gonna base it off of PFF. I've decided I'm gonna be one of those guys from now on because there's some things that I see that I'm like, you guys have gone downhill since you've lost some good talent, in my opinion. Let's talk a bit, and college ones are hard too because, like, dude, you better be doing well on most games, and that's gonna lead you to at least an 80 if it's most games. Let's talk a bit about the other two. I don't know much about Michael Williams, so please, by all means, take the stage.
I think the best compliment and backhanded, maybe backhanded compliment I can give Michael Williams is that when I watched him, I got the same feeling I was having when I watched Will Anderson. And that's a little scary because when I watched Will Anderson, I wasn't sure because I didn't see a variety of pass rush moves, and I wasn't sure how that was going to translate to the NFL. And I got a feeling that people were overrating him. But as it turned out, I was very wrong. So with Michael Williams, I see actually much longer levers on him. I see a super explosive first step, and I see the speed to power that's in Will, and I also see a frame that I think Dennis Allen would be absolutely willing to work with. It's not Shamar Stewart uh, level of probably too big for an edge, in my opinion. But it is a solid frame. He's pushing 270,
265, yeah. I mean, he's there.
265.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
PFF has him at. I don't know what he fully 662. No, hold on. 6'5", 265. I can tell you from mock draftables. By the way, I looked up Will Campbell because I wanted to look up his arm length, 7th percentile, arm length, 21st percentile, or wingspan, 7th percentile, because I said the wingspan was a huge outlier. 7th percentile
which
wingspan.
I looked that up earlier, and what I found funny was that was amongst all offensive linemen, not all offensive
Oh,
tackles.
that's even worse. That includes guards and centers. And then we want we want Michael Williams.
Yeah, it looks long to
And
me.
he came in at 260 according to mock draftables, 6'5", 1/8, so 6051. 86th percentile height, 40th percentile weight, but that's also edge defenders are getting smaller. They just are. This is going to compare him to all of them. So, like, when you're looking at weight for like offensive linemen or edge defenders, take the percentile a little bit off.
He also just is going to put on 15, 20 pounds.
Yep. And then hand size, 79th percentile, wingspan, 86, arm length, 81. So he's got length.
Yeah, we're good there.
He's got longer arms than some tackles at 34.3/8, which is amazing. And then wingspan at 82.7/8. So what is that? 6 feet 10 inches, 6'10" wingspan. Jesus.
Yeah.
And 10 1/4 hand size. He's not Kenny Pickett. He's got a full inch on Kenny Pickett.
Good. So I don't want to talk again. I don't want to talk as if I've been watching Michael Williams film or even highlights. I just watched him play in some games, and I knew to look at him because not only was I aware he was a top prospect and therefore I should be watching him. I also remember in Hard Knocks, the Bears, the very last scene is Poles talking to probably Flus and marveling that Michael Williams was returning in practice. He was fielding punts. So I've always known that from just that one scene of a TV show that is overly dramatized and this probably means nothing, that the Bears seem to have a little bit of an interest in Michael Williams. So for me, I think I'm projecting positivity on him, and overall that's where I'm swaying. But he is raw. He needs to do more than just speed to power, and that's really all I've ever seen out of him. but
Yeah,
the arm length is there that he could develop it, in my opinion.
yeah.
Montez Sweat is a lovely tutor from what it seems like. So I'd be slight thumbs up on Michael Williams if we took him at 10.
So I do want to be clear here. All the edge talent, I think, after Abdul Carter goes, there's red flags, I think, on all of them. Right?
Sure.
Would you
Yeah.
agree?
Yeah.
Not a lot of them have a lot of production. I know like Bears fans want production out of the edges that we draft. In the first round, a lot of the guys I think so like Shamar Stewart, who we're going to talk about, started to come off, I think, towards the end of the season this year, right? There's a guy who I think played at Purdue last year who looked really good, but then added a lot of weight. I can't remember his name. And
Nick
this year,
Skouerton.
he's from Scourton, A&M as well. You drop some weight, put him back at a 3-4. I think he'd be a stud. They made him add weight, even though that didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Skouerton is a weird one, but yeah,
I don't think he'd be
that idea.
But I compare this class a lot. I think I told you when I was initially looking at it to the 22 edge class, I believe, where everyone was saying there's a lot of depth. And I'm like, yeah, but who can you set your watch to? I think was the Solak thing that I'm like, that's exactly what I've been trying to figure out how to say.
That was 2 years ago. Yes.
2 years ago. So 22.
Yeah.
No. Now I think
23.
this is a 23. Okay. 23. Yes. Cause it's 25. Jeez. I think this is a better edge class with the depth, in my opinion. I think there's more traits than I remember the last one having.
One thing I actually want to point out about the 23 edge class is what can you say? Watch to. Agreed. Eventually agreed with you at the time. I pushed back a little bit, but eventually I was like, yeah, these guys will have all of their flaws. As it turns out, almost every single one of them is pretty good.
They're solid. They're good run defenders, definitely. Like a lot of them are very well rounded, I would say. Would you not agree?
I would say almost every one of them has turned into exactly what we thought they were going to turn into. Nolan Smith has turned into a really good pass rusher.
FAU hasn't. Felice and Duke Uzama. I'm talking about the depth. I'm not talking about the top either. Like Nolan Smith was a top consensus board pick if he like top 16, I want to say, if I remember correctly. Then he ended up going at the end of the first round. He was falling.
Yeah, I guess, but
I was talking about the depth, and I think the only one that ended up doing well is Keon White for the Patriots that year. Has been a stud, absolute stud. But from the guys who went after, like say, I don't know, the guy at Green Bay took that I'm blanking on right now.
After pick 40, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to hire Lucas Van Ness?
Yeah, let's say after Lucas Van Ness. How many guys after Lucas Van Ness hit? That was like 12, right?
I'm not a dang encyclopedia, but Nolan Smith sticks out. Miles Murphy stands out as one who has not done very well. There's been a couple other FAU. I'm not going to say it's been bad, but it's definitely not what we thought he could be.
We were high on him, to be fair. That was a mess.
Yeah, I can't remember the rest of it. I think Will McDonald won a little bit behind. Will McDonald's awesome, but
Will McDonald, yes, for the Jets. Did he go after? I thought he went before.
I think he might have been a pick or two after.
Okay, so I thought it was before. I would have included that. I would have stopped at Will McDonald then. So depth wise, like second round talent is what I'm trying to get at, because that's what a lot of people were talking about in that draft. There's a lot of second round edge rushers you can get. I don't know if that's the case, even in this one, but I do think the depth is better in this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Both Ohio State boys intrigue me. And actually, if I'm gonna go way down the board, I'm gonna throw out this hot take, and maybe this is better saved for.
I did just say I think the depth in this one is better. I compare this draft to it, but I think the depth is actually better.
I know.
Yeah.
Shoot. Fine. Both Ohio State boys intrigue me quite a bit. And Braden Swinson, I'm gonna throw this out there. I'm gonna make a bet that he's gonna go in the first round.
Okay, LSU. I don't know who that is. I do like both Ohio State boys. I would agree with you there. I would probably take a swing at one of them, especially if we go like DI first. Edge wise, here, let me just go off this board.
And going back to the your chart that you love from that book, it is not a good idea to take one in the second round in general. However, this
second's not as bad. Top 50 is not as bad. Top 50 is not as bad. After the top 50, yes. It does drop off significantly. Edge isn't easy to hit in the first place. If you're drafting Edge 101, you're looking at a 33% chance of him being elite which elite would be,
Okay.
top 3 guys in APY. It's one of the lowest hitting positions when it comes to like elite and like tier 1.
Okay.
People don't realize that. They think it's quarterback. Quarterback is it's a little better. I got to look at the charts. It's been a bit. Mind you, those charts are also a little outdated because it's based off of drafts. It doesn't include the last like 3 years, and the last 3 years I think have been a little better at some positions than normal, and a little worse at some.
Some teams, including polls, have actually started kind of drafting by
Off of them.
That research. But I don't know. There are interesting guys in the second round. Landon Jackson is another, I guess, less athletic version of a Dennis Allen edge. There's a lot of guys, and we don't need to get into all of them. But
I've got the quick
in terms
chart.
of all the guys, James Pierce is my guy, but he's not going to be Allen's guy, in my opinion.
Stop blacking it out. So quarterback edge at the top. This is a quick chart off of PFF that's based off of that same data, basically, right? So it's based off of that second contract. So purple is elite tier. Obviously, if you're elite, you're at least tier 1 or elite, right? Blah, blah, blah. This one has edge a little bit less than quarterback. So like 33%, it looks like. You can get a average, second tier or better, which is, a good starter, at about 52% with the first pick. That's the first pick. By halfway through the second round, that drops off to about like 40% for like an average starter, right? So tier 1 or less. The book has 8 tiers, so it's a little bit harder to break that off, and I'd have to look at the book, but the book has 8 tiers where it's based off of APY that you got versus percentage of cap.
Yeah.
This is only 4 tiers.
Spending quite a bit of time on this, but I think we should wrap this little edge section up to say we are intrigued, at least into the second round, by the depth. Williams is my guy that I think myself and Dennis Allen can at least agree on a little bit. Stewart production does not do it for me. I'm not going to shoot myself, but the production is just not there for me personally. Trade down, sure. James Pierce is my guy. I don't think he's going to be Dennis Allen's guy. And then if we go somewhere else in the first round, there's no shortage of names that intrigue me in the second. That's so where I am there.
Shamar Stewart, 39 versus. Give me a second. Really?
I will give you 15 whole seconds for me to grab here.
All right. Well, I just want to look up something real quick. Shamar Stewart's going to be one of those players. This is where his red flag is. You're right about he production wise. However, he has the same amount of pressures. It's just those didn't turn into sacks. Shamar Stewart is like the opposite of James Pierce, where James Pierce has issues and can get washed out around the edge. Shamar Stewart can hold his block and continue to crash inside. They're very different. So like James Pierce, coming back to one of your guys, if it was a different defense, we're talking about a guy who can win outside pretty quick, but can also, if you've got an offensive lineman with reach, is going to wash you out a lot and sometimes will not get the sack.
Yeah.
Mikael Williams might not also get the sack, but he's going to crash that offensive tackle and kill the pocket and get a pressure, right? Not Mikael Williams, Shamar Stewart. They both come off in the season at 33 pressures from what I can see, 6 sacks versus 2 sacks. Production was not there. I think he's starting to pick it up. It is going to be, this is the issue, is like he's got all of the measurables. 98th broad, 96 vertical, so he's explosive as hell. 10-yard split, 90th percentile. 40-yard dash, 91st percentile, 10-yard split, which is more important than the 40. But let's just add the 40, and they're 90th percentile. Hand size, 33rd percentile, not as great, but nor was Mikael Williams. Arm length, 75th percentile. Wingspan, 96th percentile. Little bit, what's the arm length? Same arm length, so 34 and 1/8 is what I said earlier, right? 84 and 3/4 versus 82 and 7/8 wingspan. So longer wingspan. Like he's got all of the tools to build with. So it's one of those things for me where it's like, yeah, I'd rather trade back and take him. But if there's a toss up and you think you can coach this guy because he fits the Like you're talking 267 versus the 260. That's not a huge deal.
Yeah.
6'5".
So I
Like
I have no doubt that Denizano is getting a boner hearing all this, but um, and again, I know that the ability to finish a sack is both not necessarily
sometimes based off luck.
a skill, and it's not
It
necessarily
can be.
predictive. I know that is a skill, but it's
Yeah.
maybe not as big of a skill as people want to say it is.
Yep.
It's also
It's
it's not
partially
predictive.
luck
And
based.
hang on, just let me talk for a sec.
Sorry.
It's not necessarily predictive, and it's not necessarily even that important because you're getting to the quarterback, you're at least forcing something bad to happen to the offense. I still cannot get past 4.5 fucking career sacks. That is a mental block for me that I will admit.
Yep, that's fair.
That is hard for me to get past.
That's fair.
And
I would understand
I'm
it.
also I'm sorry. One more thing. I am very sympathetic to Texas A&M is clearly asking their defensive linemen to do something different than other places are asking their defensive linemen. You see it not only with their own defensive linemen's production, but with Walter Nolan's production the second he leaves Texas A&M. I got all that. I should, in fact, probably get even more when I totally whiffed on Javon Dexter because I didn't even realize they were just asking him to mush rush, and that's why I wasn't even trying to get to the
Yep.
quarterback. It is still a mental block that I just am not going to be able to get over.
Yep.
But it is going to prevent me from getting upset if they do take my time.
Yep.
Sorry,
It's
go ahead.
fair. I want to double check. So he had 39 on 315 pass rushes, a little over 10%, 12%. Not great, but still, I don't know. 3 against LSU, so I would assume that it was other edge rushers that were giving. So it might not have been Shamar Stewart. It might have been Scarton or someone else who's giving issues to Will Campbell, because I know that's a game that like was not those best. Um,
Yeah,
I don't
kind
know.
of Scourton, actually.
It might have been Scarton, who is an interesting pick, but I don't think for us, because I think you need to make him drop weight and get back to what he used to be.
Yeah. Or help keep the weight, but probably stand up.
Yeah. Let me see here real quick. I want to see how he did. Oh yeah, 6 pressures, a sack, 5 hurries against LSU.
Yeah.
So 5 hurries and a sack would be the 6 pressures, in case anybody understands. Pressures are a combination of hits, hurries.
That is quite good. And again,
Yep.
if this guy that we're not even considering with our pick is doing that to
Been
Will
better.
Campbell, that is not voting so great.
It
for
could
Will
have been
Campbell.
some on the other side too, but I know that Will Campbell had issues in that game, so it's going to be. And from, yep.
We both watched the game. Apparently, I remember Scourton doing some work there.
So that is about it for Edge. I would say if they pick either, I don't know how I would rank it. I'm fine with either because we just need some edge talent and just get anything in there for me that is worth a first round pick according to boards. I'd rather trade back. This is where the issue is. If this was a normal draft where I felt like you have the ability to trade back and we wanted to take one of these guys, I'd rather trade back. The issue is who's going to be there, right? Context matters. Who's there? If it's Will Campbell, Michael Williams, and Shamar Stewart, I would personally lean Campbell and then go edge potentially in the second, right? Look at one of the Ohio State guys instead, and then take a DI or like a running back with the other pick, right? If it's like Kenneth, not Kenneth Grant, if we're including like Mason Grant, and Walter Nolan, I don't know. This is where it's like I'm going to be like, I like all of them. Take whoever. And this also comes back to the Genty part, where it's like if Genty's there and it's these guys, I almost would rather go for the guys that if they hit their high end are worth $30 million a year than a running back. Fuck, I like Genty. So a little bit less savings, good bit less savings, but
you get New Jersey.
Yeah, I think that's all we need to talk about with pick 10, unless we want to talk wide receiver. You like Tat?
I'd like to throw a few other wild cards out. That
Cornerback. I'd like
Tat is not one of them. I just don't think Will Johnson is one of them. But I think we both agree that if we took Will Johnson at 10, we'd both be pretty psyched, right?
I think he's one of the. He's almost as good as Travis Hunter at corner, and I'll put Travis Hunter as a better corner. But you look at his numbers before he got injured; he put up almost the same kind of production.
I don't even know that I would concede that. I don't know what people are doing with Will Johnson. I think this is crazy. I
He's a
think we're
top 5
all
pick.
being
In my
crazy.
opinion, he's a blue chipper and he should be a top 5 pick. I don't understand what's going on there either. I think we're going crazy. I think he's getting that I didn't play last year ding that some players get.
Yeah. Yeah,
Who else did you want?
I think Will is great. Maybe I only
Mal-
have two. I think Tet is a good one to as a thought experiment, but it's not going to happen. It's not what we're talking about. Two dark horses for me would be Jihad Campbell and maybe even more so Jalen Walker from Georgia. If
Gia
those guys
Campbell's
fell,
one of the few linebackers that I think actually understands how to play the position. Like it's good linebacker tape versus like, hey, tell the guy to go wherever. Shocking because it's not Saban who is coaching him this year. So it's like typically like a Saban linebacker I'm pretty happy with. Whereas a Kirby linebacker, to be clear, and this maybe with less than the Kobe team, Kirby Smart will literally say, yeah, I don't hear as much about the linebackers giving corners and defensive line. Saban coaches up real well. So I see smart linebackers with that. Now, again, it wasn't Saban this year. I just want to go on a tangent.
sure.
Gia Campbell, good linebacker. I don't like taking linebacker with my top. It's just
So let
it
me ask
is
you this.
safety and linebacker are the two hardest positions to project, in my opinion, because the tape does not tell you much. Because a lot of linebackers are basically not told to read their keys and are just going to do what they're like the play call is. So they're
It
not
doesn't
doing
tell
what
you
the NFL
everything,
is.
but
And the
at the same
safeties,
time, you can tell when a guy is succeeding despite his measurables. That's a way you can tell that
right?
he's
So like when I watch,
doing things correctly.
God help me on Oregon's coaches, Dan Lanning. When I watch Dan Lanning when Sewell
Yeah,
was there for his last year, and I see Sewell struggle in the beginning, and then it clicks, and he's actually understanding a complex defense. That's why I like Sewell because I'm seeing him do things that okay, I need to run like Liz Rip, which means that I need to understand my match rules, and I am matching how I'm supposed to in different route concepts. Exactly right after like the UCLA game on. I'm like, I love you because I can tell you can play. You will probably be able to read it in the NFL. It just took you a while because it's a hard defense to learn. But then when I watch like Noah Sewell in the 3-3-5 that everybody loved him in the year before, I'm like, you're just being told to do this specific thing.
running straight.
Yeah. So yeah, it's exciting and fun, and you look fast, but you're not reading anything, which is what you're going to be expected to do in the NFL. So you look athletic as hell. So the traits are there, but I can't tell. It's funny because I fell in love with Noah Sewell based off of his next year's tape, which is the opposite of what a lot of people did.
Right. The reason you fell in the
Because
fifth round. But also because, and now granted, No Solo has not done anything in the NFL yet, but because the NFL does a very, very bad job at linebackers and safeties. And frankly, I think we do a better job.
and the funny thing is, so
And the
safety,
NFL as a whole, not the
yeah,
individual teams.
no,
Some teams blow us out of
some
the
teams
water,
are,
but the NFL as a whole is still overvaluing the incorrect things.
and to be fair, like who's the guy with the Chiefs, but he plays such a specific type of play. I did not like him.
Leo Chenal is
Yeah, did not like him, but he
his
also
role.
plays
His
his
role is
roles.
thumper.
Yeah, and his role was a
Thumper and
role that he
blitzer.
had. Yeah, his role was a role that he had when he was back with Wisconsin. So yeah,
And
I mean that makes sense.
who would have known that Steve Spagnuolo would know how to get the best out of a player?
Yeah. The so I guess the safety thing, they were asking people at the combine, they're asking teams at the combine, what's the hardest thing to evaluate? I believe it was what's it called? Pro Football Talk was asking this. Safety came up more than anything because safeties in college football are not, you can't tell what they're being asked to do half the time.
Yeah.
It's a very hard eval on tape. Those two positions are difficult. So I am
here's the
on
way
either.
here's the way that I'm going to dumb down safety though. If a guy is doing in college what a good safety would be asked to do in the NFL, he is likely just a very good safety.
Right, but there's not a lot of teams that are doing that. A lot of teams now in college are running three eye safeties, which some teams in the NFL have done sometimes. It's difficult, man. We gotta like at a certain point, and to be fair, like we could get on. I can get into a long running tangent about schematics in college versus what's happening in the NFL. I can talk through all the different variations of 3-3-5, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is the issue, though, is like safeties in college, most of them are not being asked to. They're being asked to do very different things.
But here's again,
So it's hard.
we've said this many times, but the extra step of instinct is worth way more than the 0.2 seconds of 40-yard speed for those two specific positions.
Yes, because that
So,
extra step of instinct is 0.2 seconds. It basically shaves that off.
so
Like,
if you just look at the tape, I don't agree that it is that hard. You just have to go against the grain, and you have to not look at the draft rankings for
who's
these
the Notre
positions.
Dame safety that I had a massive red
Xavier
flag?
Watts, who
Oh,
is
no,
going
no,
to
no,
be the
no.
best safety in this
The one
class.
that went to
Oh, Kyle
Baltimore.
Hamilton, yes.
Kyle
Yeah.
Hamilton had a massive red flag with his speed. I'm mad at myself for falling for that red flag because his tape showed that he has the instincts to play. The instincts made up for the athleticism.
Yeah. He
Now,
played. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but I missed two. Granted, I missed in favor of two also very good safeties, and I put him third. But his role in the NFL is a little weird, and his role in college was also a little weird. It was a little bit difficult to project that.
yeah.
If the
Yes.
role is weird, it's gonna be difficult. But
Yeah.
I got to say, for my other boy, Xavier Watts, single high free safety with 4 or 5 ish speed, not super attractive. Watch the man play. He does every single thing right. He knows how to recognize route concept. He's going to be an excellent safety in the NFL.
It's been a month since I've done mocks. I believe the last set of mocks I sent you, who did I have going in the second a lot to? The Bears.
Even I'm not doing Watts in the second because I'm just,
I don't think he'll fall now.
I just don't expect it. No, it's not about falling. I don't think they're going to draft him.
He's
But
50th on the. They should, because you need a Kevin Byard replacement, and you don't know if how old is Kevin Byard at this point? At what point do you lose that step of speed that you're going to have issues covering half field, right? And what coverages are we running? We're going to be running a lot of cover one, so he's got to take over the middle, right?
Right.
Got it to you, Robert. You've got to. It's.
I use it too. You got to have thresholds, but the thresholds should be much higher than they are in the NFL. Brings me back to Jihad Campbell, though, a person that you're familiar with because you watch a lot of Bama because your wife.
I hate the SEC. I hate Bama. My wife is a massive Bama fan.
You watch a lot of Bama, though. You like Jihad Campbell. I also kind of like Jihad Campbell. He has pass rushing chops that probably aren't going to project to pure edge, but they could. We also are almost certainly going to release Tremaine Edmonds next year. So all that in mind, we understand linebacker is not a high value position at 10. We understand that it's hard to scout, but we both do like Jihad Campbell. If a guy comes up to you on draft night and says the Bears will be turning in this pick for Shamar Stewart, you have the ability to veto, but only in favor of Jihad Campbell. Do you do it?
I don't, because I don't think it's worth the positional value. I think I think
I do. I think I do veto. I think I go Jihad Campbell.
I would take the less than a coin flip, probably even less than 33% for the elite, because you're talking about a guy who's got a lot of production issues. To be like, give me the 20% chance I get the elite there, right? Like whatever it is, 15% chance I get the elite there at edge over a linebacker who I can probably sign a guy in the free agency. Granted, a lot of people re-sign their linebackers this year, so maybe the NFL's shifting and I might be screwing myself. But this is a one-year thing, which let's see if it continues this trend. I could sign a guy for 12, right? That typically gives me better than baseline that most teams have, because teams, and this is the issue with linebacker. Linebackers take a while to teach. It goes back to that coaching scheme, right? Linebackers take a while to teach, so they end up developing actually after they've left. And so because they've developed after they left, you get lucky and you get to sign a guy who is really damn good for really cheap, right? And that's actually why I think teams this year were like, well, no, we've been spending time on developing these guys. Let's actually sign them. Let's see if all the teams are that smart. Now, obviously, we had Sanborn. I wish we could have kept him. Very smart linebacker. I think Wisconsin typically has smarter linebackers, except for it goes back to Bio Chanel. I would rather take one or two swings late and see what I can get there. I mean, when did Fred Warner go? Like, he was a day 2, day 3, yeah,
3rd or 4th,
right? Like that's my thing. Is like the last good first round pick was Roquan Smith at linebacker.
Yeah, I guess the other side of it is even if we have identified that Jihad Campbell's very good, and I think we both agree he's very good. Last year I got Edgerton, well,
It might take a couple
Edgerrin
years.
Cooper right, and he was good immediately. So I think I'm getting there on linebacker, in
Mhm.
part thanks to you. You helped me there. And I think I'm on Campbell. But the flip side of it is the NFL is so stupid that you can use that to your advantage and get a good
Yep.
linebacker in the fourth round.
Rapid fire, real quick on a couple guys in the first. Calvin Banks Jr. Yes or no? If we trade back, I would probably say most of these guys are if we get to trade back.
Really quick, we put his first part of rapid fire because I'll be rapid fire on this. Jalen Walker, same deal. Less sold him as a linebacker, but more sold that he could actually be a third down nickel rusher. I'm a I'm a no in the gun to my head scenario with Shamar Stewart, but I'm very, very close on him too. And I think a 3-4 team is going to take him and rotate him inside and out, and they're going to be probably happy with that. Jamie
Yep.
Collins style, old Patriots Browns
Yep.
guy. Anyway, Kelvin Banks. Boring answer. I don't know, but I lean towards this is like a trade down scenario.
Mhm.
Uh,
I
like
lean
around
towards Josh
20,
Simmons over
around
him,
like
right?
20, sure, but yeah, I prefer Josh Simmons.
Yep.
Josh Simmons is my
That's what I should
is
be
going
asking.
to top everybody.
Yeah, I would rather
Offensive
take
line play.
Josh Simmons and trade back over almost all the other tackles. I'm with you there.
I feel really good about Simmons, so
Uh,
he's going to top anybody.
Connor Lee started turning it on late, and I'm basing this off of listening to like Nate Tice and all of them. I haven't watched Connor Lee tape, to be fair. Connor Lee started turning it on late. That's why I like Connor Lee. He's got all the size and measurables. I'm gonna
See
throw him
it.
out there as a potential trade
So
back or like a
again, caveat: not watching any offensive lineman that closely. Have seen him. He looks smallish to me. He looks like he
uh
needs a red shirt year to
33 and
me,
a half
personally.
arms, so he's like right there, a little bit under. 82, so he's 73 percentile wingspan. He doesn't have the same issue. 6'4", so he's a little short, but he's 311. That's pretty big. 48th percentile, but again, it goes back to weight. Offensive tackles back in the day weighed a shit ton,
I
so
know.
that throws it off.
This could be baseless because again, it this is not based on watching much tape.
Yeah,
But
91st
I remember looking at
percentile,
him and
10-yard
saying, "Man,
split.
that guy looks small to me." Sometimes you just look a guy. It doesn't matter what the
Yeah.
numbers are; they just kind of look
So
small to you.
let
The
me throw out
build,
the one.
something about his build. I don't know.
Let me throw out the numbers that matter. So it's 91st percentile 10-yard split, which matters on offensive line because it's how quick can you get off, right? And then 97th percentile vertical and 51st percentile broad. So broad's a little off, but the explosion it shows there with the vertical. So it's like how quick can I jump set and how far can I jump set? Broad's fine considering his arm length, wingspan, and everything's like kind of right there where you need it. Hand size is 78th percentile. He
Yeah,
got it better
Connor for
towards the end of
me.
the year.
I'm
I like him as a developmental, and if we can
yeah.
get him like at 39, happy.
Exactly.
Like,
At 39, I'm happy because I'm taking a bet on what I believe to be very projectable pass blocking traits.
yeah,
I think as a run blocker, he is going to be a problem. And Braxton, I think, is a very good run blocker. And I don't think there'd ever be a reason to have Josh Connolly play over Braxton.
Josh Simmons, though, I think we both agree probably ahead of everyone. Injured
If
year.
Josh Simmons had stayed healthy, I truly think he would be,
What's he won?
I mean, discussed in a way that would be shocking to people.
Matthew Golden, Amika Buga, and Luther Burden.
Golden, I think I'm out. I watch Golden; he's very smooth, but I think the 40 time is doing too much work. I think he's just a guy,
Mm.
and I don't want to come back to bite me if he in the same way that Jordan Addison did. If he gets in the right offense, of course he can make noise, but again just seems like a guy to me.
Mm.
Ibuka seems like a perfect slot who's maybe actually capable of a little bit more like a power slot type, but like a
He
like
can
a
throw. He can
juiced
play
up
some axe too. He's
like
got
a
the size
juiced up
for it.
like Tyler Boyd kind of like
He's a
not like a slot like in his prime. Tyler Boyd could play anywhere,
He can
something like
block.
that.
He can block. Like that's the thing. Is like Amika Buka would be my pick because he's well rounded. He can basically do everything good.
Right. So
Yeah.
I saw a mock draft where he went to the Bears at 39, and that is just of course yes.
Yeah, there's no chance in hell he's getting to 39, is he? That's like
I saw a mock draft. I don't know. It's the whole range. You never know.
okay.
Of course yes. In the first, sure, but I'd like it to be
To
in the
trade
scenario
back
where
to like
the like
16,
the
18.
the Rams want Tyler Warren really badly.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. 16,
26
18.
is where I'm like, yeah, Sonic Luka. And then Luther Burden, I don't know what's going on
26.
with that either. Huh?
I would take him at the high teens, like 18. Emeka
Who?
Buka.
For the Bears?
Well, it depends on who's on the board, right? I guess if Josh Simmons is there, I'm taking Josh Simmons over
I'm by
Ibuka.
default the other guys are on the board is kind of my thing. So
Okay.
for Ibuka goes a little further back, and then kind of the same thing with Burden. I don't really understand why everyone is soured on Burden. He was in a really good offensive environment as a junior, and then he was in a really bad offensive environment as a senior. You got to be able to square those two things in your mind. It's not on him.
We both love Watts. We already talked about Malachi Starks, who's fallen a significant bit. Jesus.
That's a no, just because I like Watts better.
Yep, I would agree there.
But for the same reason, I like Watts. I don't think Starks should be falling so far. Like I think he's good.
Now, what if I gave you Kevin Winston Jr. in the third at what are we 79?
I mean,
Over
what's his
Watts
name?
at
Andrew. My third rounder of choice is Andrew Makuba. But yes, I'd rather have those two in the third than Starks for sure.
Well, hold on. I'm saying Winston over Watts, third versus second. So Watts, I would think, would go in the top 50. Would he not?
I think those two are probably pretty similar in value. I think I'd take Watts over Winston.
I would probably agree, but I think I'm
second
splitting
versus the
hairs a
third.
little bit.
Yeah. No, I think I'd take Makuba
It's a
in the
hard
third
pick.
over Watts. I'm a big fan of Makuba.
Okay. Okay, that's fair. Now, we've gone through a couple of the guys.
I'm actually lying. I'm lying. No, Watts. It's Watts. I love Watts.
You like Judkins over Henderson. Now I'm going to go into the second round a little bit.
That's not quite true. I think Henderson will be a better NFL player. I think Judkins makes more sense for the Bears. What we're going to be looking for.
I want Henderson. I'm sorry. I just want Henderson. I like Henderson a lot.
Would not be upset at all. The running back that I like the most, and I'm very sure is going to be very good, is Caleb Johnson from Iowa. That is my
guy. Shoot, who's the Kansas State? Jayhawks running back. Why am I? Evan Neal? No, Neal. It's Neal, but
Devin
Neal. Devin Neal. I like it if we take like a third round flyer on a running back.
I haven't really looked. I've not really looked too much into the if we don't take one in the first 2 days, just because I really think we're going to. But
I want to double up. Is the issue? Is like get Swift out of here. Like you're third. Sorry.
For like later, I think like Kal-El Mullings from Michigan. I really liked him. I liked Smith from SMU. But these are I'm like focused on power backs at this point.
Yeah,
So I feel like that's what we're going to be going for.
No, so I'm focused on getting a home run hitter too, but only because I want to replace DeAndre Swift. And also, what you can do with them is like, hey, I'm fifth wide receiver, you go out there. Hey, I'm punt return, you go out there. You're a special teamer if you don't work out. So that's why I'm like, let's get a home run hitter to double up.
Well, in that case, I'm thinking about Dylan Sampson because Dylan Sampson is also really good out of Tennessee.
Any other running backs that you would consider? I think there's a couple that I would like in day 3. What's out of Charlie's
Doesn't matter. Kal-El Mullings is the one that really sticks out to me as one who seems to be going too late in knocks. I like Kal-El Mullings.
You cannot hear Charlie
not as anything special, but as a reliable guy to draft late.
You can't hear Charlie barking, right? Because he's going off right now. I think I've got the filter should be getting it right. Cool.
I kept thinking you were saying Charles Barkley, and I had no idea why the hell you were saying
Charlie barking, my dog. Who was I thinking of?
His full name is Charlie Barking.
Obviously, like if we get like a Trevor Etienne, later on, like day 3, I'd be fine with like Trevor Etienne too as like an extra.
If we doubled up on the big guy early and the Thunder early, the Lightning late, Etienne would be up there for me.
Is Ashton Genty really considered just the Thunder? Like I think he's both, man. I think
Genty's everything. Genty's everything.
Yeah,
obviously.
But yeah, I guess if we did, I see what you're saying for the second. Now, I don't think there's much else I want to touch on. Any other second rounders? And then I quickly.
Raheem Sanders. Raheem Sanders, another running back I like.
Okay, got it. DTs.
And wait. I'm sorry. One more. Late round Lightning. Basil Tootin out of Virginia Tech. I like him too.
Got it. Oh, you also mentioned Dylan Sampson. I'm with you with Dylan Sampson, by the way. Second round strategy, real quick. I wanted to touch on running backs because we talked about Ashton Genty. Second round strategy. Obviously, a running back is on the board there. Corner, I think, should be on the board there, but it might not be.
I
At
just
least
don't
day
think it's going
2.
to be.
Yeah,
I
I
just
think
don't
at
think it's
least.
going to be.
Yeah. Safety, I think, should be on the board there. But really, we're probably looking at DI, another potentially edge, and then some kind of offensive line, running back, wide receiver. Really, I think that's where. What would you say?
Listen, my default mock for like predictive has been Williams at 10, the edge Williams at 10. Then at 39, I usually just go Judkins because I just feel like we're going to take Judkins. And then 41, I always try to trade back and pick up another third rounder.
That just fell to me at 10.
At which point I take a swing tackle, usually Ariana Irsay from Minnesota, who I like. And in the third, I usually take a DI because I think DI does go about 3 rounds deep.
Okay. I do agree with you that you can get DI up to the third because I think it's off because Harmon was a third rounder back when I was doing mocks early, and I haven't done a lot of mocks.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm a little off here. I shouldn't talk.
I mean, the mocks are
DI.
The mocks are whatever, but like there's like 15 DI who interest me.
Yeah, the DI goes pretty deep. I think this class. I would give it versus last class a better DI class.
Yeah.
So for me, I'd like to go edge first round because I think it's hard to find anyone after that, man, with all how the charts work. If we have to go DI, I'd be fine with going like 39.
I would hate to force edge though, you know?
I agree with you. And I don't think you should force it. What I'm trying to say here is if they pick an edge, I assume they did their homework and are picking it. I'm not trying to sit here and say, I know better than you, right? So if they pick an edge, I'm cool with it. I would prefer that. But if they don't pick an edge, I'm going to assume they did their homework and said, none of these guys work out. And I'm not going to get upset. Right? Like, I'm hoping that somebody does fit what they want and they're like, we can work with this really well. Does that make sense?
It does, but even then, I'm going to accuse them of reaching.
Yeah, that's fair.
In all likelihood.
That's fair. Chances are, I mean,
if it's Michael
really
Williams,
reach, though?
If it's Michael Williams, I won't do it. But
hold on,
you know,
is it a reach though if you take 14, 15, or 16 from the consensus at 10? Really?
I don't think necessarily care about the consensus unless it, like you said, unless it is somebody declaring somebody a steal and they're not really a steal.
Well, I do think reaches matter in the consensus because that's one team could say yes, while the other teams might not agree, and the consensus is where, like, the only time you override the consensus.
Let me be clear.
Yeah.
I don't care. I have enough faith in my ability to know about these prospects that I don't care.
And I'm going to throw this out there too, because you did mention something earlier that I wanted to touch on and I forgot to retouch on, which was after the top 8 picks in this draft, you're right. Picks 9, you said 12, but you're 10 through 50. I think it's
50, just some round numbers.
I would even do 9 through 50 are going to be very similar. And it's funny because typically picks 16 through 50 in most drafts, about the same hit rate, guys. That's how it typically works in drafts. This draft, though, I think you have less. It's not 16, it's not 14. It's less. Yeah.
That's why, for me, the ideal first round pick based on who's likely to be there is just Will Johnson. Just draft him and know that you have a great corner.
Yeah, and then you know what? Tyreek Stevenson is now your backup corner. Somebody could get hurt. Great. He is a damn good backup corner. And you have Terrell Smith as your fourth. You know what? Shoot, we could play dime with those guys, honestly. Just play dime all day.
Huh?
I don't care. Take out a linebacker. We don't need Tremaine Edmonds out there.
Yeah.
And throw Jaquan Brisker down in the box like he likes to play. Maybe grab a safety. I don't know. In my opinion, if you're a defensive coach, use your personnel the best that they can be used. Sorry, Dennis Allen, because I know you like certain types of personnel, so you might not agree with me. Like Dennis Allen as a DC, to be clear.
Yeah, I'll defer to him a little bit, but man, it sure feels like, I'll say this, the Saints really loved collecting corners. That was a big thing the Saints like to do. So maybe Dennis will get on the table, but it was usually like a second round corner. He'd be like, we're taking this guy.
4 picks, right, in the first 3 rounds. What positions do you think we have to come away with in those 4 picks? and then that's it. Like, what positions do we have to come away in those 4 picks, do you think?
I don't know if I want to deal in have tos because the last couple of years we had to come up with an edge, and it was not a good idea. Like I'm still staunchly BPA.
I'm not saying so. I'm saying like in those 3, it doesn't have to be in order, right? But okay, give me your preferred 3 positions you would prefer those 4 picks end up going to.
Yeah, that would be edge, DI, and
Running back.
a swing tackle. And
Okay.
yeah, my preference would be running back to round that out. But
So
I'm saying I don't want to deal with the have tos because maybe I would like Will Johnson to be our 10th pick, like I just said.
I'm coming.
And I would kind of like Xavier Watts to be our 2nd round pick. So
I'm coming full circle, right? Because I would like an edge, right? If we don't get one, we can sign. I don't know. There might be another Yannick this year that you add to the rotation. I'd like an edge. I'd like to come away with a DI. After that, because I think you can get running back, linebacker, all those in like day 3 if you want to. I would honestly prefer that we come out with a safety, so we have a plan for when Byard's gone, or an offensive guard, so we have a plan for when Joe Tooney's gone, or at least have something there in the trenches. That would be my preference. Wide receivers kind of a need too, but I don't know. Frick. This is the issues. We have so many depth needs. It's like, dude. So I guess where I'm going at here is those picks can go to corner. Those picks can go to safety.
I'm not optimistic we trade down from 10, but I'm pretty optimistic we trade down for 41 if we want, and then we can hit something else
additional. Because I think that there are quite a few things we could come away with. And the beauty of how we've set this team up, though, is none of them are desperate needs. I mean, running back kind of is. You can find those, you know. None of them are desperate needs, but we do have needs at depth and potentially upgrades to add to, right? We need blue chip talent, man. Just go find the best player available.
Yeah.
Without sacrificing too much value.
That's the most important thing. I mean, get good players.
So yeah, if they draft a cornerback with 10 and it's Will Johnson, fuck yeah, let's go. That means we've got 2 shutdown corners almost guaranteed in my mind. So
yeah.
Anyway, we're at 2 hours and 6 minutes. I think we're good. We've covered everything we probably need to. Went longer.
Your dog is barking. Your dog is barking.
He's gotta go out, man.
My wife is barking.
Yep. So that's Kevin. I'm Adam. Thank you for sliding into Virginia's DMs.
Bye.